Baseball on this Saturday morning as we get ready for Game 2 between the Giants and the Cleveland Guardians. See, I said it, the Cleveland Guardians. As the Giants continue on this road trip is going very well, taking 2 or 3 from Atlanta, and that's on the heels of winning a couple of series before that. The Giants are playing some good baseball right now, and they win last night over Cleveland 4-2. And the way they're doing it, not hitting great, but they are getting that clutch pitching that I've talked about for so long. And you give them a lead in the 7th inning, they bring it home. And they did it last night. It was a bullpen game, and the bullpen for the Giants, let's say Eric Miller is the starter, the bullpen for the Giants, 8 innings, 10 hits, a couple of runs, 4 walks, and 6 strikeouts. But the main thing is Bob Melvin went to the big guys early. When he needed outs, he went to the big guys, and Taylor Rogers gave him the outs that he needed. Then, of course, you turn it over to Walker and to Raj, and then to Duvall, who makes it a little interesting, as always. Tranquilo Camilo had a little trouble covering first base and got into trouble. Then, of course, with the great arm he's got, and nothing bothers him, got out of it. But when the Giants lead after 7 innings, they're 32-3. When they lead after 8 innings, they're 34-3. How about that? So pretty impressive what they're doing. Pretty impressive what they're doing here on the road with this pitching. They win last night 4-2. Walker gets the win, and Bibby, who's a good pitcher, boy, they took care of him in the first inning, and I think it's worth it in just a short review of the game last night. Soler hits one down the left field line. Third baseman knocks it down, and Ramirez, terrific player, can't get it to the first baseman, and Soler beats it out. Then Wade does what he does so well. Boy, they missed him. They missed Lamont Wade Jr., I tell you that. He gets a walk, and then after that, here comes Ramos, who has a shot at being an all-star. Look, Tatis is not going to be in the all-star game. I'm not sure who they would pick instead of him, but Ramos should be in consideration, and he takes that great swing and hits a hit, and now the bases are loaded, and it brings up Bailey in the number 4 spot, and he gets the sacrifice fly. The Giants have like 32 sacrifice flies this year, one of the best in baseball, and they keep the inning going. Chapman gets a walk, and then here comes Conforto. And as I will tell you, as we talk about the game and the show today, Conforto is getting it done. And he gets a hanger. And you know they say it, you hang it, we'll bang it. And he got a hanger from Bybee, and it was right over the plate, a curveball, and he didn't miss it. And he hit it over the right fielder's outstretched arm. A couple more runs come in, and the 3 runs, and the Giants made it hold up. And they beat the Indians. I said it. They beat the Guardians last night 4-2. Walker the win, Bybee the loss. Duvall saved number 17. Naylor, Josh Naylor, a little different than Bo Naylor, his brother, who's the catcher, hits 9th. Josh Naylor, the big home run for Cleveland, hit it 426, and I'm telling you, it looked like it went 526. And he got a home run for one of the runs, and then Cleveland got another run. Ahmed got a nice suicide, it wasn't suicide squeeze, a safety squeeze, and got that done. And the Giants got their 4 runs. So a nice win for the Giants last night. They've won 8 of 11. On the road now they're 19-26, 7-10 in their last 17, but it's totally different. The other trip through Birmingham with the Cardinals and Cubs, and now they're on the road against Atlanta and Cleveland. And Cleveland's a good team, not an overpowering team. Believe me, they're not. They left 11 on base last night. They had their chances. But what the Giants do now, they get the big out. That's what they're doing. They're getting the big out. They make the big pitch when they have to. Whether it's the Miller, the starter, whether it's Bivens who comes in next, they get in some trouble and they get out of it. When it's Walker, I don't care who it is, Rogers, Duvall, they make the big pitch to get out of it, and that's what this team is doing. And they've got reinforcements on the way. But for Cleveland last night, 0 for 11 with runners in scoring position. That's huge. Giants were 3 for 10. In July now they're 3-1. Cleveland at home, they're tough to beat. They're 28-11, but they are in a different division. Believe it or not, this is the first game for the Giants against the American League Central. So they're going to get a couple more with the Guardians here. They're going to get some with Detroit, some with Minnesota. Minnesota in the next homestand is coming in. What a game they had last night. Holy cow. We'll talk about that one. And then you've got Kansas City, of course, and the White Sox. So there's a lot of American League Central in the Giants' future, which I think is good for the Giants. Is that American League Central is not a very strong pitching division. It's not. And we'll see how the Giants handle them. Interleague play, the Giants are 8-11. And as I said on the trip, they are 3-1 on the trip now. So that's a story, a little bit of a story last night. It's interesting playing the Guardians. Stephen Vogt, one of the favorites of the Bay Area, is the manager, has a good relationship with Bob Melvin. Kai Correa is part of the coaching staff. Greg Albernaz, who was the tutor for and mentor for Patrick Bailey, is a catching guru there. And it's nice to see Sandy Alomar. What a great player he was, and he's coaching first base for the Guardians. So it was nice to see him there last night. In the standings, the Dodgers win a big game last night. Will Smith, 3 homers last night. How about that? Will Smith, 3 homers for him last night. Dodgers beat the Brewers 8-5. Freddie Freeman, big hit for him, big hit in the 8th inning with the bases loaded and 2 out, and he gets a hit off a lefty to put the Dodgers up. Ohtani's 30th birthday, he's 0 for 11. On his 30th birthday was yesterday, so happy birthday to him. But Dodgers end up winning. San Diego and Arizona, an absolutely crazy game. Now, the Dodgers win. Giants are 10 out. And as I say, you keep it under 10 as we go through this summer. Anything can happen, and I will say that. If you pitch, things can happen, and the Giants are getting some pitching back, as I said, starting with Kyle Harrison today. But San Diego and Arizona, crazy, crazy game. Quick summary. Arizona scores 6 runs in the top of the 9th to take a lead, all right? And now San Diego comes back and ends up winning the game with a 2-out home run from Profar to tie it up in the bottom of the 9th. They're down, and it makes it 8-8. And then Manny Machado hits a walk-off home run to win the game 10-8 over Arizona last night. How about that? And there were a sellout 47,000 at Petco last night. So this National League West is going to be something. San Diego is now 6.5 out. As I said a million times, I'll say it again, the Dodgers are not running away from anybody. Glasnow gave up the slam last night to Rhys Hoskins. Boy, Milwaukee, that's all they do is hit grand slams. There were grand slams all over baseball last night. Really just incredible what was going on in baseball last night. So San Diego 6.5 out. The Giants are 10 out. Arizona 10.5. In the wild card, and it's going to be this way all summer, I still say it's going to be the Giants, Arizona, and San Diego, and watch Cincinnati. Gordy Wittenmeyer, who covers the Reds for the Inquirer, will be on the show today. We'll talk to him about the Reds. But I still say it's those 3 for the 2 spots. In Atlanta, they've got good pitching. They're a solid team, but they've got those injuries, and they didn't hit very much either. You get past the big guys in Atlanta, as I said, you can beat them. So maybe that 4th spot will be in contention, maybe not. But in the loss column, which is really important what we look at, San Diego 43 losses, the Cardinals 41. The Cardinals played Washington yesterday, ended up winning the game, and Helsley got the win there, the closer. But they're at 41 losses, 45 for the Giants, 45 for Arizona, 44 for the Mets. They got killed yesterday by the Pirates, 14-2. 7 homers for the Pirates yesterday, including 2 more grand slams. One for Brian Reynolds and one for Rowdy Tellez, our friend from the Elk Grove area. He hit, and they both hit 2 homers. The first time in Major League history, 2 players from the same team hit multiple home runs and grand slams in the same game. And I'm telling you, you can't script this stuff. Pittsburgh 45 losses, Cincinnati 46, and Washington 47. So from the top to San Diego and St. Louis, and they're in this thing, to the bottom of Washington, you got 7, 8, 9 teams in there, 3 to 5.5 games behind the two leaders. So this is changing every day, and that's a good part of baseball. We like it. We like it. Hey, Stephen Kwan, they slowed him down last night. Boy, the umpire was tough last night. 1 for 5 for Kwan. He's hitting .368. For Conforto, as I said, 9 RBIs for him his last 11 games with 7 extra base hits. Trey Turner, how about that? He had 2 homers last night, one of them about 460 feet. So it was a crazy night for baseball. I'm sure Bruce Jenkins and I are going to have fun talking about this. All right, Giants win at 4-2. We look to today's game. They try to win another series, which can happen today. Kyle Harrison comes on off the injured list. I'm not sure what the move would be. I would imagine it would be Bivens, but I haven't seen that at all. Harrison's 4-3 with a .396 earned run average. I don't think he's ever seen Cleveland before. 77 innings, 81 hits, 9 homers given up, 7 solos, and he's been out with that sprained ankle, which probably is a good sign. The kid had to slow down a little bit. They were going to have to monitor his innings. This gave him a couple of weeks off. You can run on him a little bit, but basically he's a tough pitcher, and he will give the Giants a decent game today. Lefties against Cleveland, that's what you want, because you could slow Kwan down and Ramirez down and Naylor down with lefties, so you want to see that. I think the big thing today is who is pitching for Cleveland today. They've got trouble with their starting rotation. Their best was last night in Bybee, and he was all over the place. He did not have a good game last night. Cleveland's bullpen, lights out. Their bullpen last night, 4 1/3, no hits, just 2 walks. That's it. The rest zeros. Their bullpen is outstanding, so you don't want to get in a bullpen game with them. But the starting pitching's another story. So Logan Allen goes today. He's from Altamont Springs in Florida. That's the west coast of Florida. He's 25, 6'1", 190 pounds. He's 8-4 in the year with a .575 earned run average and an OPS of .913. I know these numbers. I can't wait to see the Giants hit today, and hopefully the right-handed lineup will do some damage today against Logan Allen. 83 innings, 97 hits, 18 homers in 83 innings. The righties are hitting .304 against him with 14 of the 18 homers. Right-handers have 52 hits and 39 extra base hits. Bailey 0 for 1, Chapman 1 for 3, Matos 1 for 2, Slater 1 for 3, Soler 1 for 2. So that's Logan Allen today. You would think the Giants should be feasting on a pitcher like this after facing Chris Sale and Lopez and Morton and Bybee. They finally get one of these pitchers who gives up a lot of hits and home runs. So we'll see what they can get done today. But it looks like a good matchup for the Giants. Kyle Harrison against a lefty, Logan Allen. So that's how we look at it today. Well, a lot going on in baseball. As I said, there's so many things that happened last night. I'm looking forward to talking about it. But our next guest is George Contos, and he's been working with NBC Sports Bay Area. I watched him last night on the pregame and the postgame. And, of course, he's a World Series champion, doing a great job. So we'll take a break, come back, we hope, with George Contos right after this on the Sports Leader.
Talking baseball with Marty Lurie on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the Sports Leader.
Experience the epitome of luxury and craftsmanship with Inicio Windows and Doors, another exciting product line from BMD Manufacturing. Inicio Windows and Doors sets the standard in ultra-premium European design. Wow. For the most demanding American building standards. Available both in steel and aluminum, they are meticulously engineered to elevate your living space to new heights of sophistication. Learn more about Inicio Windows and Doors today. Discover the perfect blend of European beauty and style with unwavering durability and strength. Visit InicioWindows.com. INICIO Windows.com. Inicio Windows and Doors, where European design meets American craftsmanship. Vance Bridge Bank delivers their clients full relationship banking, including treasury management solutions and global market services. Bridge Bank offers financing solutions to businesses for their working capital, equipment, and real estate needs. This is very important in today's world. Fred Voss is the Senior Managing Director of Bridge Bank's commercial lending efforts in Northern California. He has commercial banking teams in San Jose with Jesse Garcia, San Francisco, Oakland, Cheadle, Cordova, and in Pleasanton. Bridge Bank, it's like banking at home. I can't say enough about it.
Two on, one out. Doval pitches. Naylor, ground ball to second. Wisely has it to second one. Ahmed to first. Got him, double play! And the Giants have won the game here in Cleveland. And they did it all night long in stressful spots on defense and on the mound. And they found a way to keep the Guardians at bay. Wow.
Prepping you for today's orange and black ball game, we now take you back to Talkin' Baseball with Marty Laurie on KNBR, the sports leader.
Well, the Guardians 0 for 11 with runners in scoring position. A lot of big pitches made during the game last night. The Giants win it 4-2. Joining us is George Contos. We love having George on. Of course, he's one of the great alumni of the San Francisco Giants, a World Series champion, and also part of NBC Sports Bay Area. George, how are you?
Good morning, Marty. Thanks for having me on.
Come on, man. I'm thrilled to have you on. You were my philosopher on Friday. Remember, we did many shows together.
Of course. I loved it. A little 10-minute skit every homestand talking baseball.
Yeah, yeah, you were the philosopher. And Georgie, let me ask you this: words are said in baseball. There's the pitcher's best friend is the double play. The Giants turned some real good double plays last night to get out of trouble. Boy, you got to make those double plays when they're put on your plate, so to speak.
Well, especially against a team like Cleveland. They're young, and they don't swing and miss all that often. They only struck out 6 times. I mean, when you have that kind of offense in the lineup with a guy like Steven Kwan and Jose Ramirez, and obviously we saw how good of swings Josh Naylor's putting on the ball. Whenever you have the ability to get, 2 birds with 1 stone, so to speak, you have to take advantage of it. And a couple of those double plays were just at really the right time and necessary at those parts of the game.
There were a couple of parts of the game last night for the Giants that they got away with. One was in the 9th inning on that, and you've done this a million times as a pitcher, that ball that's hit to the first baseman, and Wade was a little bit off the bag, and Duvall doesn't break right away and has trouble getting there, and all of a sudden you got someone on first base. What happened on that play?
Well, it kind of just seemed to me like Camilo wasn't really thinking about having any urgency to get over there. Maybe it slipped his mind because he was trying to execute the pitch. But, we talked about this in the post-game show yesterday with Ronnie Wotus. That should be instinctual. I mean, we do that stuff in spring training thousands of times from the second you show up in professional baseball. It's like one of the most fundamental, pitcher's fielding practice, PFP. You've seen it and heard it a million times. I mean, whenever the ball is hit to your left side, to the right side of the infield, it should be instinctual that you just go towards first base. And if you take a couple steps and realize that you're not needed in the play, great. But sometimes those plays that you can just make the out by yourself, so to speak, where you have to just get to the bag and beat the runner, are huge plays in the game. And those outs in the 9th inning come at a premium, as we know.
What do you think about this road trip so far? The Giants are not tearing the cover off the ball. They're not, but they're getting hits when they need it. And one guy who's done it on this trip is Conforto, and he's come back from his last 11 games. I saw some stat. And he's got like 8 or 9 extra base hits and 9 runs driven in. Conforto has really lifted the ball club.
I've always liked him. As soon as the Giants signed him, he's just such a professional hitter. I faced him as a Met. And he's a guy who's just done it at a very high level for a really long time, really. I mean, his last 12 games, he's hitting .328. He's letting the ball travel deeper. Whenever he gets patient in the box and allows the ball to travel and not get jumpy and want to make things happen, he can hit the ball to all fields. His at-bats are always quality. He knows the strike zone. I mean, he's done such a great job, and having him heat up as well on top of Jorge Soler getting hot, Matt Chapman hitting well, and obviously Elliot Ramos doing what he's done the last 40 games. It's really, really nice to see and refreshing for an offense that really needs to start stepping up with some of the things that have happened with their starting rotation. And obviously there's light at the end of the tunnel getting some of those guys back. But the offense, it's nice to see them picking up some of the starters and some of the pitching now.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, the guy for me is Wade. And you look at that first inning, and, Soler hits the ball down third baseline, and Ramirez knocks it down, throws to first. The first baseman just couldn't handle it, just off the tip of his glove, but Soler hustles. Then next thing you know, Wade's on first, and Soler's on second because Wade walks. And he does it every single time. He does not chase. It's a big deal.
Well, in Atlanta, he had 2 at-bats back-to-back where he swung at the first pitch, and I remember Javi making note of it. Like, you never see that. You never see him go up there and hit or swing at the first pitch or attempt at it. He works counts. He thinks along. He's got a really, really short, quick swing, and that allows him to see pitches and spoil pitches and hit good pitches inside that right-handers may throw him. So his at-bats are really, really professional, and he goes up there with a great plan. And he's one of those guys as well. He can let the ball travel deep because he's so short and quick to the ball. I read a stat earlier in the season that he produces the most power from where his hands are to the middle of the strike zone with his bat in that short amount of distance. So Lamont Wade has just been such a great addition to this ball club over the last few years, and we continue to see his maturation in this lineup, even with them moving him around positions, obviously from the outfield to now first base. He's taken it all in stride, and none of it has really affected his approach at the plate, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I'm glad we could point him out because I think he's been a big deal here. The other one is Ramos. And look, George, here it is, the first day, and they took care of Bybee, who didn't have it last night. He got it together after the first inning a little bit, but he was all over the place. But here he comes up, he throws that high pitch, whether it's a curve or a fastball, and Ramos he just tomahawks the thing into right field, and he's done it the whole road trip, and now all of a sudden you got the bases loaded.
Well, the Cleveland bullpen is the best bullpen in all of baseball by not even a small margin. It's a pretty substantial lead that bullpen has. So you have to jump on their starters. And, Tanner Bybee had historically in the last few starts been fantastic. I mean, he beat Baltimore, he beat Kansas City, and he beat Seattle. And he punched out 12 Mariners while doing it. So the stuff, as we saw last night, was there. And, we mentioned this in the pregame. If you're going to beat this Cleveland Guardians team, you got to jump on these starters early, because if you get to that bullpen, as we saw, those 5 guys come in, they're all nasty. They're huge. They throw hard. They have great breaking balls. But they took advantage of Tanner Bybee's inability to get ahead in the count. And Elliot Ramos, back to your point, Marty, he looks like he finally believes that he should be in the big leagues and that he should be in the lineup every day. I mean, the guy played in 3 Futures games. He was a very highly touted prospect. We know all about it. He came up and down a few times, struggled a little bit, and I feel like some people started to maybe lose a little bit of faith, but I've talked to him multiple times, and I've asked him, what's changed? What's different? And he goes, I'm just trying to stay in my process. I'm trying to not get too high, not get too low, trying to keep the game simple. And when the game is simple for him, he's letting the ball travel, and his main power, his huge strength, is the ability to hit the ball to right field.
Yeah.
So he's been doing that fantastically. He's got fast hands. He's a big, strong kid. He can turn on anything if it's middle to middle in. But those pitches away, those breaking balls away that he hits to right field with power because he's letting the ball travel, he's just finally starting to believe that he belongs here, and it's just a really nice perk in his maturation process as a ball player.
Yeah, well said, George. Well said. George Contos with us. The other thing about him, he gets base hits. It's not he hits them out of the park, and there are no doubters when they go out. And the one in Atlanta, he didn't even see. His helmet got in his way. But the guy gets a lot of hits, and I like that.
Well, the thing about it, too, is you can, when you're watching his at-bats, you can see him thinking along, and he picks and chooses his moments where he takes swings that he comes out of his shoes on. And that's what I like, which means he's confident that he's going to get a pitch that he's looking for. And if he can drive it, great. But I love the fact that he can sell out on one pitch, and if he gets it, he's going to hit it really hard. Then he goes back into okay, I'm going to take what the pitcher gives me. So when you watch him in his process and all the things that he's been doing, the biggest thing for him is just trying to stay in the moment, not try and worry about things that you can't control. Only control what you can control. And that's been going so well for him. I think we're past the is this a fluke and little hot streak.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been doing it since, I think it's been May 8th since he got called back up, and he's leading the National League in RBIs, only trailing Judge and Jose Ramirez of the Guardians in RBIs. He's got 12 home runs. Him and Matt Chapman lead the team. I think we're past this is a hot streak, and this is just kind of what we can expect from him. And granted, if this high level of production might be a little greedy to think he's going to do this for the entire year, because that's just an elite superstar level of production. But I think that the approach and the mental toughness that he has exhibited now is going to stick with him, and he will be able to not have those really the high ebbs and flows, and we'll get some consistent production out of him moving forward.
Yeah, I hope so. Boy, great to have you on, George. Good to talk to you. You know the game. One more thing before we turn to the bullpen a little bit. Bailey gets a sacrifice fly. It's underrated, but the Giants are right up there in league leaders in sacrifice flies, which means you're getting a run in from third with less than 2 out.
Well, it's nice to see some fundamental baseball being played. We saw Nick Ahmed drop a bunt yesterday. We saw some guys hitting the ball where it's pitched into the outfield, sacrificing an at-bat for a hit, so to speak, driving the ball somewhere for just getting the run in. That's what it takes for a team to be a really deep and for a team to go deep into the postseason is to play that fundamental baseball. And it's great to see. Patrick Bailey's baseball IQ is really, really high. He knows exactly what he's supposed to do in these situations. So it's nice to see when the light bulb clicks and guys are doing what they traditionally have done to get runs produced.
It's funny. I used to say this to Bochy about you. I'd say, look, the guy's pitching great in the 6th, 7th inning. Might give him a leverage spot. I used to tell that to Boch, and eventually you got some leverage spots. But Bo Mel brought in Rogers early, and that's what Bocher used to do with you a lot, because those outs in the 5th and 6th inning are key outs. Now, they did that with the lefty Taylor Rogers, and then Walker's in, then Tyler Rogers, and Duvall. Can you keep doing this for a whole season, use these guys like that? Because the Giants are always in these tight games. What's it going to do to this bullpen?
Well, I mean, you have Tyler Rogers and Ryan Walker are 1 and 2 in all of baseball in appearances. So they've been a little bit unlucky with the injury bug and the instability of the starting 5. You know, you've had for the last little while, you've only had 2 starters. Really, you've had Logan Webb, who's been the horse, and really just it's been undervalued nationally, and with the attention that Logan has gotten, or that he hasn't gotten actually, for how good he is. I mean, he goes out there every day, and this last start in Atlanta, he went his 11th consecutive game throwing 6 innings or more, which is the longest streak of his career, tied. He did it once more in 21. But the guy's leading the major leagues in innings, and he's done such a great job. But here, towards the All-Star break and just after, you're going to get these guys, and Kyle Harrison back, who's starting today. You're going to get Robbie Ray coming back, hopefully, who pitched in his rehab starts. Alex Cobb went 2 innings and struck out 5 in San Jose yesterday. So there's some light at the end of the tunnel for these guys getting healthy. And I think once you get the starting 5 solidified again, where you have the confidence that you know who's going to be pitching every 5th day in your rotation, that makes things a lot easier on the bullpen, because I really don't think it's sustainable having to do 2, sometimes 3 bullpen days, even with the long guy. And you have Bivens and you have Sean Jelly, who can give you some innings. It's just it's a little bit of a cluster in the bullpen when you don't have those solidified roles. And under my teams in 2012 through 17, when I was a part of the Giants bullpen, we had very defined roles for the most part. We knew when the phone rang, it was going to be one of 2 guys that was getting up. It was either going to be, in the 6th or 7th, it would have been me with the starter and traffic on base, or it could have been a lefty in Jose Mijares in 2012. I would get the ball to Javi, Jeremy, Casilla, and Affeldt, and that's how it went. And we knew the pecking order of how it was going to go, and we all had confidence in those spots that we were coming in. And I think when you know and have a good, decent opportunity to go in the game, and you have an idea of when you'll pitch, it makes you just be able to be more mentally confident and prepared for that situation.
Yeah, you're right. Great analysis, George. You got to get 6 out of the starter, and that's the key for me. And then you could work the bullpen, so you're not working 5 guys every game. Because look, the Giants play a lot of tight games because they just don't blow teams away. It just doesn't happen that way. Today's game, Logan Allen. Have you looked at this matchup today? And they haven't had a pitcher with numbers like this in a while, so it kind of scares me a little bit. But have you looked at today?
It scares me too. I said this to Ron Wotus yesterday. I said this guy is a guy that scares me a little bit. When you have the guys who are throwing, Chris Sale, obviously you got to tip your cap to him. He dominated. But when you have guys that have this great stuff, the Giants seem to do a really good job of getting to those pitchers and scoring 3-4 runs off of them, and maybe getting them out a little early. But it's these kind of, I don't want to call Logan Allen a crafty lefty, because he's, his fastball is 91, but he's a traditional lefty, mixes it up, will throw the kitchen sink at you, and his numbers are not very good. His whip is over 1.5. His ERA is north of 5. But I agree, to your point, Marty, there's something about this matchup that makes me a little bit uneasy going into it.
Well, you got to knock him out and get enough runs so the bullpen can't save him. You see, if you knock them out at 3 runs, now here comes their bullpen. You need to knock them out at 5 runs, and that's the key for me. When you get a pitcher like this, you can't let him off the hook. But we'll see. He throws the kitchen sink, and then the kitchen sink flies over his head, as it's 18 home runs he's given up. But we'll see what happens.
This is one of those outings, I think, where as Javi would say, it's all gas, no brakes from the first inning against Logan Allen.
Oh, you guys have fun. You're having fun doing this, aren't you, George?
I love it. I really enjoy. First and foremost, I really enjoy talking about the game because I love it. A lot of people ask me now that I'm done playing, do I miss it? And my true answer is not that much because I'm still around it. Do I miss playing? Sure, I miss being the camaraderie and being around the fellas and all the friendships that I've made through my career. But being back and being able to cover Giants baseball and still talk about the game is fantastic. So it really helps scratch the itch tremendously.
Well, I'll have you on. Let me ask you about Birdsong. He's scheduled to pitch tomorrow. Do you like him?
I do like him. I think that in his first 2 outings, he's shown a lot of maturity for a really young kid. There are some times he's gotten into some jams. He gave up those 2 back-to-back homers, and then Duvall hitting that double off the wall in Atlanta, and he showed some really nice poise getting out of that with no more damage. So the fact that, and I love the fact that he talks to himself on the mound. He's just up there pumping himself up and talking to himself. Come on, let's go. Let's get it. Execute a pitch. I love that, and I think what he's done is he's shown a high level of maturity at this level very early. And we all know how it goes. At some point, he's gonna face his adversity. He's gonna struggle. He's gonna have a couple starts where he just gets knocked around, and it's not any fun. But the fact that he's shown the ability to bounce back in the start gives me confidence that he'll be able to get over it and bounce back from a poor start, which inevitably will happen.
You ever talk to yourself on the mound?
I never really talked to myself on the mound. No, I mean, I had some nice mental internal discussions, but never literally speaking words to myself.
All right. George, great to have you on. It's always a pleasure, and I'm glad that we could have done this, that we did do it years ago, and I'm glad your career has taken off on TV and radio and everything else, so congratulations.
Well, thank you. You told me from the very beginning. He goes, when you're done playing one day, you're going to be on TV. You're going to make it happen. So I appreciate it. Thank you for all the advice, and I look forward to our conversations moving forward, as I always do.
Fabulous. You're on my list, George. You're one of my guys, so I appreciate it. Have a good day, and we'll catch up. Thank you.
Thank you, Marty.
Okay, that's George Contos. Boy, he knows the game. Very good. Mark Simon next, right here on the Sports Leader.
Talking baseball with Marty Lurie on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the Sports Leader.
Fans, I heard from Gene Bagato up at Bodega Bay, and with the arrival of summer and the ensuing warmer weather, there's no better place to escape the heat than the Sonoma Coast. Up at the Tides Wharf restaurant in Bodega Bay, there's something for everybody, from the always popular fried calamari and New England clam chowder to an in-house smoked fish and the Bodega Bay burger made with fresh chuck ground daily to ensure top quality. In the fish market, I love the sand dabs, one will find everything needed for a picnic at the beach or just to take home. And if you're looking to stay a while, the Inn at the Tides is just across the highway, waiting for you with its spacious rooms, all with bay views and a heated swimming pool. So if you're looking to get away this summer, remember the Tides Wharf and the Inn at the Tides in scenic Bodega Bay. just a quick note about the rooftop restaurant at the Via Hotel, the Hotel Via across the street from the park. They do a wide variety of events on the rooftop, from weddings and birthdays to corporate retreats and special events, holiday events, and any other special occasion you can think of. With stunning 360 views of the skyline, Bay Bridge, East Bay, and, of course, Oracle Park, the rooftop at Via is truly one of the most unique event venues in San Francisco.
Mark Simon. Mark, I love you, man.
Oh, no! All right, that is the theme song for Mark Simon, the trumpets from Edwin Diaz, who is allowed to pitch today after having his 10-game suspension. And, of course, Mark Simon is a New York Met fan who was bombarded last night. 7 home runs for the Pittsburgh Pirates. What happened to the Mets?
I didn't give up any. Hi, Mr. Mensch. They had a rough night, and it looked like it was going to be a good night. They got a couple against Skeens, and then he locked in and shut them down for 3 or 4 innings, and then it was Brian Reynolds and everybody else bombs away on their bullpen, which their pitching's a little questionable in certain spots, and it was questionable yesterday for sure.
Yep, Mets are starting to slide again, but the Pirates, just to bring everyone up to date, 7 home runs for the Pirates last night, and Reynolds and Rowdy Tellez, our friend from Northern California, had 2 homers each, and both had a grand slam. How about that?
Yeah, it was crazy. It tied a team record for home runs in a game, and a couple of them. It was funny because, in the early part of the game, when the game was still within reach, a couple of them were like first row shots too, and it was like the margin of error on those was pretty small, but they went over the fence.
Amazing.
They ran out of fireworks, as a matter of fact.
That's right. All right, that's a good one. Pirates ran out of who would think cannonball coming? They ran out of cannonballs, as they like to say.
Yep.
Mark A. Simon says on Twitter, and of course. Mark, I'm getting all sorts of tweets here. All right. And, of course, Mark, part of Sports Info Solutions. All right, let's talk Giants baseball.
Yeah.
They get to Cleveland last night. It's the first time they're playing the American League Central, which is kind of weird for me. But I wasn't sure who Cleveland, who they are, how they play. And they go, well, 0 for 11 with runners in scoring position. The Giants have another tight game, and they win it.
Yeah, it was kind of a reverse of everything these teams have done this season. The Giants never score in the first inning. They have essentially the worst first inning offense in the league, and they put up 3. And Cleveland is the best runners in scoring position team in baseball. It's a trademark of how they've been as good as they are, particularly their star, Jose Ramirez. And last night, as you said, the 0 for 11, which I don't know that you would get them to repeat that a second day in a row, so you got to be careful today.
All right, well, they're going to need some help today. Let's look at the pitching today. I just talked to George Contos about it, and Kyle Harrison comes back today. Maybe it's a good thing he had a couple of weeks off to rest the arm. But on the other side, look, the Giants have seen Ronaldo Lopez. They've seen Chris Sale. They've seen Charlie Morton. They saw Tanner Bybee yesterday. Today they sort of go back to, okay, it's Logan Allen, who's got numbers that, you cringe when you see it. So let's talk today's pitching a little bit.
Sure. Start with Logan Allen. Good win-loss, ERA, high 5s, been over 5 most of the year. A lot of home runs. He throws a changeup, and one of my pitching nerd colleagues, Juna Collier, was telling me that he cuts it. It's a cutting changeup rather than kind of like a dropping changeup. It looks more like a cutter. It has been hit pretty well this year. A lot of hard hit balls against it. It's one of those unique changeups where the spin rate is about as low as can be. He doesn't have any good pitches this year. In the past, the changeup was a good pitch for him. Kyle Harrison bouncing back from the injured list. Fastball was struggling the last time that he was healthy. Pitched against the Astros back on June 10th. 12 of his 19 outs were with the fastball, but the fastball has struggled a bit. Teams were hitting 300 against it over a period of time, 3-4 starts for him. So I don't know if they can get 4 or 5 out of him today. I think that would be viewed as a very positive step, knowing that you got Snell coming and maybe a little soon thereafter Robbie Ray to give you a little bit of pitching depth in the starting rotation.
Well, now, as George Contos told us, Alex Cobb had a good game yesterday.
Him too.
Yeah, so he's on the way too. I think you were being very kind to Logan Allen. I'd like to say that. Come on, righty's hitting over 300 with 14 of 18 home runs, 83 innings, 97 hits. Of his 82 hits given up to right-handed hitters, 39 are extra base hits.
Oof. Yes, indeed. But he's still, and yet they're still putting him out there, and they're still winning pitches. Go figure.
All right. Well, they do play tight baseball.
Yep.
What do you think of Josh Naylor and Bo Naylor? The two of them. Josh Naylor just crushed one last night. They said 425. I thought it was 525. But what do you think of the two brothers?
Yeah, I think his strength is his strength, and you see it in the 500 slugging and the 21 home runs and the ability to hit bombs. And the Giants were kind of fortunate yesterday because they threw him a bunch of things middle that he hit. He wound up hitting into the 2 double plays, including the game ender. He wound up hitting one over the fence as well. Bo Naylor is struggling to hit this year, but and I can document this. He is a much better pitch framer than he was last season, so he's still adding considerable value to them with his defense. And in fact, his pitch framing performance this season is among the best in baseball. So even though he's hitting 205, a lot of catchers are hitting 205 these days. A lot of players are hitting, kind of low numbers. I know that he's viewed as a very promising catcher, someone I think that they think will be a 10 to 15-year guy in the major leagues.
All right, we'll see what happens today. Quan, I think the last time the Giants played against Quan, I think they shut him down pretty good too. But he was 1 for 5 last night. I know you're always on the umpires, and last night we had one of those guys with the tight strike zone last night. What do we have today?
Today we have Ryan Blackney, a little different from last night. And I know that it was Jonathan Parra, right? And I know that he's umpired like 10 games in his career, and he's had a very small zone. So what you saw last night wasn't that surprising. Ryan Blackney has one trend that I think one of the catchers, if they're playing today, that one of the catchers will like, and that is that he will call that low pitch that's close a strike more often than some other umpires. The rest of the strike zone kind of doesn't really favor one guy or the other, not going to necessarily extend it, not going to contract it, but watch the bottom of the strike zone if Kyle can get a few pitches there because he might get a call or two.
Yeah, that's not his strength, though. He likes going up in the strike zone.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so it plays more to the bullpen, probably like a Tyler Rogers than it does to someone like him.
I want to bring up a point to you, and of course Mark Simon knows the game cold and really just one of the great analysts. You have someone like Rogers coming in the 8th inning. He doesn't get a lot of strikeouts.
Nope.
Can the Giants get away with that, like in a playoff game? I mean, sometimes you need some strikeouts in the 8th inning. Rogers doesn't do that, but he gets out of trouble, weak contact. But do you like a strikeout guy in the 8th inning?
I do. It's amazing how he has survived this for really the entirety of his career, and that every time you think that, this guy is very hittable, he goes out and he puts up 7-8 games in a row, like the 7 or 8 that he has put up right now. I think I prefer the strikeout guy, but it's amazing how he comes in, he throws his 13 to 15 pitches, he gives up the dink infield single that goes like 50 feet, and maybe sometimes he fields it and throws the guy out. He doesn't walk anybody, and every so often he pops that slider, he throws that slider up and away, and the guy looks really bad on it. He's made it work. It does make me nervous when he faces some of the better lineups like the Dodgers, but he made it work. He made it work yesterday. He survived 2 hits, and like the hits against him are always like these dink ground balls.
Yep, and they're always to second base.
Yeah, just got to field them.
Yeah, second base. Well, it's tough to see. The point is, and Ron Wotus has pointed this out on the show, it's tough to defend with him because you never know where the ball's going to go.
Yes, and he gives up more 25 to 50-foot hits than just about any pitcher in baseball. They always wind up to the right of the mound in some no man's land that nobody can get.
Yeah, interesting. I'm glad we could talk about him. All right, coming in next, the Blue Jays come in next. I imagine the Giants get Kikuchi in here and probably Gausman because he pitched yesterday. But Toronto, boy, you talk about a team that struggles, and who knows what they'll do at the deadline with all their players. Well, what do we expect from Toronto? Minnesota's another story, and they're hot right now.
Yeah.
But how about Toronto?
Toronto's offense is ice cold. Vlad Guerrero has been very good of late, but other than that, they really don't have much of anything hitter-wise. Bichette has had a nothing year. Springer has had a nothing year. Turner has not necessarily done particularly much, and the rest of the roster is unimpressive. Kiermaier's hitting under 200. They DFA'd Kevin Biggio. Dalton Varsho is hitting under 200. So it's a lot of nothing there. But those guys, I guess, are playing to impress, to try and get traded. They have a lot of veteran starting pitchers, too, as you said, that all could get dealt at the deadline. I think that's the best thing that they've got going, that and their defense. Their defense is number one in defensive run saved. But Barrios, Bassett, Gausman, and Kikuchi, all four of those guys on a given day could spin seven innings, 1 run, 2 runs, and get them a win.
They don't have much of a bullpen. Arson Romano's hurt.
Yep.
The Cub bullpen was disastrous. We saw that. Is Toronto's bullpen on that level?
Yeah, I'm looking at it. It's similar. In terms of innings pitched, they don't have anyone other than Trevor Richards that's done decently, that's healthy right now for them. All their relievers are 4s and 5s. They had high expectations for Nate Pearson. He has an ERA close to 5 at the moment. Genesis Cabrera's ERA is about 4. Tim Mays' ERA is 8. A lot of disappointments on that Blue Jay roster this year.
Yeah. All right. So get into the bullpen. All right.
Yes.
I see the Cubs series all over again. All right. There are some teams that are hot, and I've said my prediction is it's Arizona, San Diego, and the Giants for those 2 spots, and I'm keeping my eye on the Reds, too. I think the Reds are there. How do you feel about some of the hot teams in baseball?
So actually, it's interesting that you said the Reds, because if you look at their the sum of their parts, they're actually top 5, top 6 in the National League, even though the standings don't necessarily reflect it. I was looking at some of the hotter teams in the sport. If you go, and I'm using wins above replacement as a guide here to steer me through. Padres right now in the majors rank 10th, and that would be 5th in the National League. They've gone on this nice tear. They had this bananas win yesterday. They've survived Bogarts, Tatis, Darvish, Musgrove, all being out. You like the hard throwers. They have the hard thrower at the end of the game with Robert Suarez, who might be the best closer. They've won 12 of 15. They look pretty good. So, yes, on them. Cardinals are hot, too, which is kind of interesting because the advanced stats don't like them at all. The advanced stats make them a bottom 10 team, even though they're playing considerably better. They're 30-17 and they're 47. Starting pitching doesn't like the second baseman, doesn't like the center fielder. The older players for them have done very little. I think your reason to believe what you just said about the Giants and the Padres and the Diamondbacks and the last 2 spots is that the Cardinals' good players haven't, other than Sonny Gray, haven't been good. They've mostly been bad. And if that continues, I don't know that they'll be able to necessarily keep this up. I was looking at the American League. I'll give you one in the American League. The Astros, by wins above replacement, those teams, are 9th in the majors. They have climbed into the top 10, and it was a long climb because they were 12-24. But I always thought that record seemed illogical for them based on the talent that they had on their team. And they too have survived some injuries, but they're going to get Verlander back. And they still have and they'll get Tucker back too. And they have so much star power. I think they're a team to watch in the American League. They've had 2 games over 500 to turn into 10 games over 500 pretty quickly because I think they have a very talented roster.
Well, they're 21-9 in their last 30 games. And before I let you go, Jose Miranda. Anybody know who Jose Miranda is? He's got 10 hits in a row. And I'm going to talk to Bruce Jenkins about this when after this segment. 10 hits in a row. He comes
Mike
up in the ninth. Huh?
I said, are you going to bring up Mike Benjamin? Didn't he have something like that once?
Well, how many did he have? I know he had 6 or 7 in one game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mike Benjamin. All right. But all right, come on. This guy's got 10 hits in a row for Minnesota. Now they're down in the ninth inning, and they eventually get to within a run of Houston. They pinch hit for him in the ninth inning. Come on, he's got 10 hits in a row.
Yeah, and he's hitting over 300, but I guess they didn't like them. I guess they didn't like the matchup, or maybe there's something that we don't know about health. There's something going on.
We don't know about Austin Martin, who hit for him. Come on.
Yep. By the way, okay, so here's the Mike Benjamin. June 14th, 1995, 6 hits in a game, part of a stretch in which he tied the major league record for hits in 2 consecutive games with 10. He also had 14 hits in 3 consecutive games. So I was appropriate in bringing him up.
Very good. Believe it or not, I have a Mike Benjamin throwback jersey signed by him. It's the jersey that they wore, I think, in 1925.
Wow!
And when they did that, yeah, Mike Benjamin. I have it. I have it hanging up in the closet somewhere. The old Dick Dobbins, who was a wonderful man, who was the expert on the Pacific Coast League. Dick Dobbins was the best. He would get these on consignment, and I knew him, and I got a Mike Benjamin jersey. Believe it or not, I got that. All right. All right, good to talk to you. A pleasure. And we'll catch up next week. Minnesota is in town next week, so we'll have plenty to talk about. Thanks, Mark.
Yep. See ya.
All right, that is Mark Simon. Bruce Jenkins next, right here on the Sports Leader. It's been a pleasure working with Rick Robin this year. Rick Robin, Robben, NapaConstruction.com. Rick, the last time you were on with us, you told us about kitchen and bath remodeling, but there's a lot more going on up in your area.
Yes, there is. ADUs, auxiliary dwelling units, which are nose drain units. We can do your existing garage, attached garage, even building a new unit in the back. And so what we do is come out, bring an architect out there. Such a great thing. No sewer hookup fees, no water hookup fees. So that's what we do.
Rick, how does one start the process with you? How does one get in touch with you?
You call Tammy, 707-332-7575, 7 days a week.
Rick Robin, ConstructionNapa.com. Rick, the thing I like about this, no problem for me. You come out with the plans, the permits, everything is in-house, no fees, and you get a new unit that you can rent out and get money back on your investment right away. I like it, Rick.
Thanks, Marty. Love talking to you.
Rick Robin, ConstructionNapa.com. Fans, nothing better than spending an afternoon at the Priest Ranch Wine Tasting Room in Yountville. You can relax as you enjoy a selection of limited production estate wines paired with local artisanal cheese and charcuterie. Your host will guide you through each unique pairing while sharing the incredible story of Priest Ranch. Now, while you're there, you must try the food at our new restaurant, The Kitchen at Priest Ranch. It's right next door to the Priest Ranch Tasting Room and serves amazing, fast, casual food. That's an afternoon.
Look through the window of the original Joe's on North Beach and you'll see two guys at the counter talking ball. Time for you to listen in to their conversation. Marty Laurie and the SF Chronicles' Bruce Jenkins are looking through the window of baseball. Sponsored by Original Joe's of North Beach and Westlake on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
All right, great to have you back with us as we get ready for Game 2 between the Giants and the Guardians from Cleveland. And it is Kyle Harrison coming off the injured list today to make the start for the Giants. And it'll be Logan Allen, a left-hander with a lot of bad numbers in his pitching repertoire. We'll see how this game turns out today. You never know in a baseball game. Bruce Jenkins, good morning. How are things today?
Doing well, Marty. Thanks. How are you doing?
Good, good. You know, the Giants are on a roll right now, and they're starting to put things together, and they're playing good ball. And Cleveland 0 for 11 with runners in scoring positions, and this has been a good road trip for the Giants.
Oh, man, it really has. I mean, you hear so much about what Cleveland's been doing, best record in the league, and Stephen Kwan and, Stephen Vogt and big lead. And, the game just felt like a game against the Indians 6 years ago. I mean, the Giants completely, they looked like the better team. Once again, they play one of the better teams straight up.
Yep.
And it was the bullpen, again, a bunch of guys did great. I thought Bivens was really good. He got nicked a little bit, but he threw some live fastballs. He threw a great low changeup to pop up Jose Ramirez in the third. He got the double play to get out of the fourth. So, and I love that Harrison's going today. That's really good timing because you're starting to see, a time when he's back and Snell's back and Robbie Ray is back.
Well, something, and look, you and I have talked about this for years and years, and of course every weekend this season. The sky's the limit for this ball club, Bruce. Once they get their pitching back, and now we've seen and you use the phrase, they sort of can go toe-to-toe with everybody. Other than the Yankees, I haven't seen a team yet that can really push them around. Why not? They get their pitching back, why not? Who knows where it could go?
Well, that's true. I mean, every time they play the Dodgers, the games are really tight and even, and there's not a lot to choose from there. But I don't know. The Dodgers are way more explosive than the Giants.
Yeah.
A lot of teams are. The Phillies are way more explosive. The Padres are way more explosive. But you got to pitch, and the Giants' pitching has just a ton of potential, and that's why we're having this conversation.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I've said it all along, and I think we've agreed on it, that pitching in this year, it's not a year of offense, even though last night was probably the craziest offensive night I've ever seen in baseball. We'll talk about it. But it's really pitching and defense, and the Giants kind of have it. So we'll see. We'll see where it goes. But Harrison today and Snell, as you say, on Tuesday. Cobb pitched well last night on a rehab. Robbie Ray is coming back. And if they can take some pressure off the bullpen, I like the way Melvin manages, to tell you the truth. I know he's using the bullpen like crazy, but this reminds me of Ken Maka and Bochy and people like that. They always told me the save can come at any point in the game, and he needed it last night with Taylor Rogers, and he brought him in and got it.
Yeah, the thing is, I mean, they are getting a lot of innings out of the bullpen, but with guys like Miller and Bivens, you don't know how many innings they might pitch. But for most of these guys, it's just one inning. History says, as we well know with the Giants in the championship years, you can ride guys all year if you give them a light load. They can come out every night or 2 out of 3 nights, and I don't sense that any of them are getting overworked. So that's a pretty big deal.
All right, so we'll see where it goes. But today it's Kyle Harrison and Logan Allen, so we'll see what happens. Let's talk baseball, though. I started reading about everything that happened last night, and I said, wow, what a crazy night. I'll start with this one. Did you see the catch that the Houston right fielder made? His name is Lopafito. Did you see this?
Joey Lopafito.
Did you see this? The catch he made?
He made 2 catches. He apparently robbed the guy with a leaping grab over the fence, but the ball comes out of his glove, and as he's falling to the ground, he has the wherewithal to catch it, not juggle it. He just caught it clean with his bare hand and falls to the ground, and it's unbelievable. It's really difficult when you're surprised as hell to see that ball floating in front of you, and you might panic and not catch it, But that definitely goes down with the better ones of the year.
Yeah, and then it's a crazy game. Houston beats Minnesota 13-12. And Minnesota scores 8 runs or something in the 9th inning, and they fall just short. But they have a player, and Jose Miranda, who I was not aware of, to tell you the truth, third baseman, DH, a right-handed hitter. Bruce, he's got 10 hits in a row, and not only that, as I said to Mark Simon, they pinch hit for him in the 9th inning.
I don't know what that's about, but yeah, I mean, who knows this guy? He had a nice rookie year. Then last year he kind of got hurt. I think he only hit like 210 in 40 games. All of a sudden, you're talking Walt Dropo. I mean, 10 hits, 10 hits in 10 consecutive at bats. That's the record is 12. You have to go like Walt Dropo in 1952.
Pinky Higgins.
Yeah, he was the most recent. Pinky Higgins was 1938, and Johnny Kling was 1903. So there were a couple of 11 in a row with Pedroia and Bernie Williams, but this kid can. The record is 12. When you think about getting a hit in 12 consecutive at bats, that's stunning. And none of those names, to say the least, are huge. And Jose Miranda would join the list of. I wouldn't say they're nondescript, but it's not like DiMaggio and Ted Williams.
No, I can't wait to see this today. And he's having a good year. We'll see him next weekend. So he's got 10 hits in a row. That is the new Minnesota record, breaking the record set by Tony Oliva, the great hitter, and Hatcher, Mickey Hatcher, and Todd Walker. Remember him, Todd Walker from LSU, the second baseman. So Austin Martin pinch hits for Miranda in the 9th inning, gets on. Correa then hits a slam, and they lose the game 13-12. Right, I bring it up for another reason, too. And I said this last week on July 4th when we talked about it. I think Minnesota's got a run in them at Cleveland. Now I've seen Cleveland. I know how they play. It's like Atlanta in many ways. You get past the big guys, and you can deal with the rest of the lineup. Maybe Minnesota can actually catch Cleveland.
Yeah, they could. I mean, you saw last night. I mean, they've got a lot of grit in them. Carlos Correa is a great leader, and he's doing great things. They really need Royce Lewis to stay healthy. He's out again. Yeah. He'll come back and hit 2 homers in 3 nights, and everything will be great. They need Buxton to be healthy, but yeah, they're a fun team. That Great Ballpark is an advantage for them. They're getting good crowds, and we look at Cleveland from the context of playing the Giants right now. I mean, they certainly don't strike you as a World Series winner. I mean, they are playing great. But they're also due to take a bit of a slide, so that could turn into a really good race.
Yeah, 27-11 at home. I'm telling you. And the other thing, the anomaly in this whole season, I think, if I read everything correctly, this is the first game the Giants have had against the American League Central.
Jeez, yeah.
So, and look, that's, you got a lot of games coming up against Kansas City and the White Sox and Detroit and Minnesota and Cleveland, and I think that's going to play to the Giants' benefit, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, it should. But like you say, I mean, last night the Reds couldn't be hotter, and Detroit hangs 4 homers on them and beats them. It's a great, baseball unpredictable thing. But it should be a good stretch for the Giants, a comfortable stretch. It's not like playing the American League East by any means.
Right.
The way it comes up this year.
Yeah.
And we'll see Tarek Skubal and Bobby Witt and some faces we haven't seen in a while.
No, it's going to be good. This summer, I think, is going to be terrific. I really do. I think the Giants are going to be right in the middle of it with their pitching coming back. How about the Boston game last night? Boston and the Yankees. And the Yankees now have lost 15 of 20. And we talked about them July 4th. They're still skidding. But they ended up not hustling last night, and Boston ends up going to the last strike, and Yoshida hits a home run to tie it up, and then Boston wins it in the next inning. How about that?
Oh, man, the Yankees. Jeff Passan came on ESPN and said they've turned into the Chicago White Sox. Wait, what an indictment. They were 50-22 at one time, but yes, they're coming off. Thursday was like the triple threat of awful. There was that really lazy play in center field by Trent Grisham, inexcusable.
Right.
What a bad look. Then they were stared down by the Reds in the all stupid. I quote the great comedian Paul Provenza. This is very dumb. having a stare down after the anthem. It's the idiot patrol. But they lost that one to the Reds. Then Aaron Judge's hitting coach goes public to criticize the Yankees' player development. So they come in now without the triple threat of awful, and they take that loss last night. After all that, they got first and third in the bottom of the 10th or whatever it was, and couldn't score. So they're just really skidding right now. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing is there was first and third, and one out, and the runner on third didn't hustle to get home.
Yeah.
And it was an odd double play, and the runner from first to second didn't hustle, and they didn't get a run. Yeah, Volpe and LeMahieu didn't hustle. Yeah, not hustling. You know, can you imagine if Billy Martin was managing this team?
Oh, I think Trent Grisham would be in AAA.
Yeah.
But
Billy Martin would have done the Reggie Jackson thing on him.
He'd pull names out of a hat for the lineup, but none of those three guys would even be in the hat. I mean, you can't not hustle. I know you can never understand that. Baseball is a game of you have your moments. You know, okay, I'm up here now, and okay, I hit a weak ground or a pop, but run the thing out. Why would you not do that? I don't understand the lack of hustle. I know it's a long season and guys get depressed, but anyway, the Yanks are just these things happen. This is the sign of a team, in a slide.
Yeah, no, you got to bring Bob Lemon back. I'm telling you, this Yankee team is in trouble. They're in trouble. They are in trouble. There's no question. And plus last night was George Costanza bobblehead night. Did you see
You'd
it?
rather have that than Trent Grisham right now. That's for sure.
Yeah, it was a great bobblehead of George Costanza swinging the bat from the episode where he changes the Yankee uniforms and then they shrink. So that's the one. That was a good one. I like that one. How about the Arizona-San Diego game, Bruce? Come on. First of all, it's the biggest crowd ever at Petco, and then it gets nuts at the end.
Oh, man. I mean, Arizona's coming off that Dodgers series, or Christian Walker. He hit 5 homers in that series.
Amazing.
Then they come in last night against San Diego, and Jock homered that night, too. Jock hits another one last night against the Padres, and the Padres are up 7-2. But Arizona comes all the way back. They get Grichuk hits a big 2-run homer. All of a sudden, they've got the lead into the bottom of the ninth, and Sewald, who has not been closing well at all, Profar ties it up, and Machado walks it off with his 4th hit, a home run. Just a wild game. But both of those teams are just hitting the heck out of the ball right now.
Well, and the place goes nuts. And this is what I'm saying. I said this a few weeks ago. There's something about San Diego. There's a fight that they didn't have. Now, I know Bob Melvin had, Soto, and he had different people in that clubhouse he had trouble with. But this Mike Schilt, this ball club fights. And it was from that Cronenworth hit from day one. He's still hitting. But Profar, Bruce, Tatis is out. He's not going to be in the All-Star game. Maybe Ramos will sneak in there. But Profar is having one of those seasons. He signed for $1 million. Nobody wanted him.
Yeah.
And he's 13 home runs and 50 runs scored, something like that.
Yeah, Jackson Merrill's a heck of a player, and you got Kim and Higashioka's going crazy. As you say, Cronenworth, Donovan Solano, the ex-Giant, is right in the middle of all this. When Arias showed up, that was a huge plus for them. Really a good lineup, and a great atmosphere in San Diego ranks with all the best in baseball, and that's what they're having right now. So, real tough haul for the Giants to catch them.
I love it, and for me, it's Arizona, and you just said it. Going into Dodger Stadium, they take 2 or 3. Walker hits home runs every day, 2 a day.
Yeah.
And now they leave Dodger Stadium and walk into this in San Diego. And come on. And you know something? The Soto trade is interesting to the Yankees because they got King back. They got the catcher back, Higashioka. He's got 10 home runs.
In 20 games, I think.
Yeah, and Vasquez, with the pitcher last night, came from the Yankees, and they had that Johnny Brito. They got 4 players who actually can play.
Yeah, that worked out really well. I mean, people, criticized the Padres for the wild trades they make, the wild spending and everything, but it's starting to really come into play for them. Soto somehow, he was okay, but he never really he never looked like the vintage Soto, which he is once again looking like with the Yankees. But the Padres picked up some after trading away prospects after prospect. They got some guys, and Jackson Merrill is another one of those guys. I mean, he's a young guy who can really play. So
he's terrific.
Yeah, they're fun.
Yeah, Jackson Merrill or Paul Skeens. Who do you like for Rookie of the Year?
Well, I think Skeens he's just loud. He's just you can't miss him. I think some people aren't quite aware of Merrill, but they really know about Skeens. I mean, he once again yesterday. This time he gets into the 7th. He's done that twice now. He got lit up a little bit. I think Gary Cohen, the Mets, said he's almost mortal. A couple of guys hit the ball hard, but once again, 7 good innings. Just the blazing fastball, the incredible slider, the split, and just the look on his face out there, the mound presence. From the second he took the mound, he was in command, and he's never relinquished it. So I think Rookie of the Year and an All-Star berth for that guy.
Yeah. All-Star berth. That's going to be interesting. He has to be on that team.
Yeah, he does.
10 starts, and every start he's struck out at least 7, and that's the first time in the history of baseball that anyone's done that in their first 10 starts. So that's what happened
there.
That was crazy. The Dodger game. Will Smith, 3 home runs. How about that?
I think he pretty much locked up that backup catcher behind the Contreras in the National League. Bailey could sneak in as a third guy, but Will Smith, he's with all the commotion around Ohtani and Freeman and Betts, and rightly so, even Teoscar Hernandez, but Will Smith is just so solid. Did you compare him to Posey, I think, at one point, or
somebody did? We had that discussion.
Yeah, I think it's really valid in that he's just so solid. You can just count on the guy. 3 homers is really exceptional, but pretty crazy. But as we talk about the Dodgers, not a good start for Glasnow. He gives up a slam to Hoskins and just a wicked 2-run homer to Miguel Vargas in that game. Once again, incredible hitting, but the pitching remains an issue for them.
Well, have you seen how many grand slams there were yesterday? I mean, Pittsburgh had Reynolds and Tellez hitting slams and a second homer for both of them. That's never happened before. Correa hits a grand slam, and Hoskins hits one off Glasnow last night. And Milwaukee, I think in 8 games, hit 5 grand slams, something like that.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Well, the next slam, here's my call. Brett Wisely will be the next one to hit a slam.
Really? I mean, it's just incredible what's going on. And I'll say it again. I think the West this summer, between the Giants, Arizona, San Diego, and the Dodgers, Bruce, I just have this feeling that this is going to be crazy. I just have that feeling.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, the Dodgers are what the hell? I'm trying to find the standings here. Well, they're only 6.5 up on San Diego for one thing.
Yeah, the Giants are 10. If they get it under 10, anything can happen.
Yeah, the first thing the Giants need to do is get to 500, which they can do today, by the way, which would be great. Then you have to be 500 before you can even talk about anything, for my money. But the Padres-Dodgers could be this frantic race, and the Giants, and Arizona, they're pretty much equal right now, 10 and 10.5 out. But you look at them and you go, these teams are threats. So absolutely, that could be just a phenomenal 4-team,
Yep.
showcase with the wild card playing into it in a big way.
Yep, I'm telling you, this is going to be some summer. This is going to be some summer. Last one we'll touch on is Phillies. They're 10 up now in Atlanta. Trey Turner hit one 459 feet. Come on, did he hit it from shortstop? How many?
I know that guy. He's had 2 games where he hit 2 homers this week, including yesterday. Hit them both off Max Fried. I mean,
amazing.
Yeah, the Phillies are just wild. Every day it's a different story. It's Bohm or Harper's coming back. Schwarber will come back. Castellanos, oh my goodness, up and down. Real Muto's going to come back. Real tough hang for Atlanta now, the way it's looking.
Well, we've seen Atlanta, and if I'm Atlanta, I better look over my shoulder and make sure one of these other teams don't pass him. In the wild card. We'll see where that goes. Boy, this is good. A lot of good stuff going on. I hope the Giants can score some runs off Logan Allen today. It sure is set up that way. But one historical note, this is All-Star Game season, and we've got a couple this weekend to talk about. Let's go back to 1983. Mm-hmm. It's the 50th anniversary of the All-Star Game. They're back in Chicago at Comiskey. And Fred Lynn is there, and so is Atlee Hammaker, and you can tell the story.
Well, Atlee, he'd only allowed 2 homers in the first half of the Giants season.
Really?
He earned this All-Star berth for sure. So he comes in mid-game, and Jim Rice immediately homers. Brett triples, Winfield singles, Trio singles, Carew RBI singles. Then they walk Whitey Herzog. It's like the old days when you really want to win this game. He walks Yount intentionally, so he's irate. He wants to hit. Fred Lynn is really upset because they walk Yount to get to Lynn. Now the bases are loaded, and Atlee, he thought he had him struck out on 1 and 2, but he didn't get the call. Lynn hits the only slam that's ever been hit in All-Star Game history, and so Atlee, for heaven's sake, 6 hits and 7 runs in a single inning. He goes,
wow.
Probably the worst exhibition of pitching you'll ever see. Oh, my God. But, it's funny, though. From that point on, there was a lot of distrust about Atlee and whether he was a big-game guy. And I'll always say that my man Roger Craig made the wrong decision in Game 7 of the 1987 NLCS against the Cardinals in St. Louis. Krukow had won Game 4 with a tremendous gutty performance.
Shutout.
He'd only be working on 3 days rest, but he'd done that his whole life when in his prime, and he wanted this one badly. But Roger went with Atlee. They lost 6-0, and just a really depressing end to that great '87 season. But tough hang for Atlee that night for sure.
Yeah, Jose Oquendo. I think that was it.
Yeah.
That's a good stat, though. Only 2 homers given up by Atlee going up to the All-Star. I did not know that.
Yeah, well, he had really good stuff. He had swing and miss stuff and a lot of great moments. It's too bad that he's remembered for that All-Star game. But as he said, in front of all those people, I couldn't have picked a worse spot for it.
Wow. Boy, good stuff. Wow, that's baseball. All right, we got more tomorrow. So we're on early tomorrow. So get a good night's sleep. Thanks, Bruce.
I think I'm gonna crash out now, just in case I'm up.
Okay. All right, take care.
All right,
have a good day. All right, bye. All right, that's Bruce Jenkins. Boy, always a pleasure to talk some ball with him. Yeah, we're on 7 a.m. Raph. 7 a.m. tomorrow. So as I always say, Raph, do they still have that couch in the room?
No, it's gone now.
Yeah, remember I used to take a nap on that couch in the back?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
All
right. Yeah, 7 a.m. for us tomorrow. All right, Gordon Whitmire next from the Cincinnati Enquirer. We're going to talk Reds baseball because the Reds are in this mix too. All right, more coming up on the Sports Leader.
Talking baseball with Marty Lurie on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the Sports Leader.
If you're a fan of Original Joe's in San Francisco and Daly City, then you've got to try the newest addition to the group, Little Original Joe's. Brought to you by the Dugan family, this takeout-only restaurant features pizza, pasta, and Parmigiana and is located at 15th and West Portal Avenues in San Francisco. Although the highlight is the pizza, why do you try that crust? Little Original Joe's also offers locally sourced rotisserie chicken, Strauss Family Soft Serve, a variety of local and imported wine and beer, and a beautiful retail marketplace. The Little Original Joe's Market is stocked with local, regional, and Italian specialty goods, as well as favorite Joe's staples like the ready-made salads, pastas, sauces, and entrees for you to take, bake, and enjoy at home. I love the lasagna. Check it out. Little Original Joe's, open daily from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. for takeout and counter service in West Portal in San Francisco.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys. It sound right, boys.
Orange and Black family, the godfather of Giants baseball now continues. This is Talkin' Baseball with Marty Laurie on KNBR, the sports leader.
Fans, it's great to have you back with us as we get ready for Giants baseball today. We're joined by Gordon Wittenmeyer. And, of course, we love having Gordy on. He covers the Cincinnati Reds for the Cincinnati Enquirer. Gordy, how are you this morning?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Marty?
Very good. And boy, it is summertime and it is baseball. And I must say, the Cincinnati Reds, ever since you went on this beat, Gordy, how long is it now since you've been on the beat here?
7 months of baseball. So it was June of last year, right before they got good. Right before they got
It's
relevant.
incredible. It's incredible. And I said this to you last year. As soon as you went over to cover the Reds, things started happening for this ball club. So,
well, I brought Ellie De La Cruz with me.
It's true.
He debuted the day after I did.
Gordy, the Reds, when you look at what's going on here in baseball today, the Reds are right in the middle of the stories every day. You really had a story during the week going into Yankee Stadium. Now, the Yankees had never been swept in an interleague series in Yankee Stadium. I think it was over 70, and the Reds swept the Yankees this week. How about that?
That was amazing. I memean, I didn't expect it. They didn't expect it. That was and every day was a different guy. They out-homered the Yankees 7-3, and it was 7 different guys hitting home runs, and they never trailed in the series. It was they played every part of the game as well as they could, and it showed you what they could do. The Yankees are also going through a rough stretch right now, so take take that with a grain of salt as well. But it's still the Yankees. It's still Yankee Stadium. Most of those guys had never played there before, so it was emotional on a number of levels.
Yeah, I thought for a team trying to find its identity, to go into Yankee Stadium and win a series like that and sweep the Yankees, it means something. And the Reds, I think, are going to build on that. Let's talk a little bit about Jonathan India and the week he had with all the doubles and the hitting streak. And he really picked the ball club up. Let's talk Jonathan India here.
Yeah, so Jonathan India is, if anybody remembers his name out on the West Coast, they probably think, why have I heard? Well, he was the 21 Rookie of the Year. And he's been a good ball player ever since, but really hasn't been an all-star. He's been hurt off and on. And so he's just a good, nice ball player. And they had injuries from the start of the season. Key guys that they expected to be here. One of them, a rookie last year, Matt McClain, who hasn't played yet. Another rookie from last year, Christian Encarnacion, went down. Noah Marte only just recently came back from a steroid suspension. And TJ Friedl, their leadoff man, and this is the big one, was gone for the first 6 weeks, came back for 6 days, broke his thumb and was out for another month or so, and then he just went back on the IL with a hamstring injury. So their lineup, which really isn't lengthy anyway, was really hurting. And that's right about that last part there. That's right about when Jonathan India got hot, and he did carry him. It was crazy. He led the National League in hitting for June. And that last week of June, he was hitting doubles 2 at a time. So I don't know, what is that? Double? Is that a hit squared? I don't know. But anyway, he set a franchise record with 8 games in a row with a double, at least one, and most of those, like I said, he had hit 2, and it's only one short of the major league record. And he was Player of the Week in the National League, hitting 5-something with a ton of those extra base hits. So that and he was in TJ Friedl's leadoff spot, and that kept them afloat. They actually went, I want to say, 500. They were maybe 4-3 in that stretch. So they could have easily, won 1 or 2 games in that stretch, and it played out a whole lot different going into Yankee Stadium.
Boy, Gordy, when I look at this Central race, I mean, I look at, of course, Milwaukee leading, and they had a tough game last night with the Dodgers, but who doesn't? Will Smith with 3 homers last night, and Freddie Freeman a big 2-out single to win the game. But the Reds are, 9 back, I think, something like that, somewhere in that range from the Brewers. Are they still in this thing?
Probably not so much in the race, because I don't think the Brewers are going away. I like the Brewers. They don't have as much starting pitching as some teams, but they've already added one guy. They expect to get DJ Hall back, or DL Hall, whatever that guy's name is, that kid. And he's really good, the guy they got for Corbin Burns. So I expect them to be there and hold on. But the wild card race is crazy, man. There's maybe 8 teams that could find their way in this thing still going into September. And I think the Reds could be one of those teams. The only thing is they go in and they play inspired against the Yankees, and they do what they do. But they don't have margin to work with. If they don't play, if everybody doesn't come in and play almost perfect baseball, you don't beat the Yankees. Maybe you win one of those games. They were inspired. They played up. The Yankees always have a target on them. So there's that. Then they come back home to start a long homestand that's critical for them in a lot of ways, trade deadline decisions and all that. And they lose to Detroit in the opener. They get shut down by Reese Olson. So, that's not Garrett Cole. And this is who they are. They're not great. They're good, but they don't have the $300 million ball players. They don't have the experience. They've got some athleticism and some pitching. So I expect them to kind of hang around. I don't know that they're going to be that team that goes on a tear and just pulls ahead of everybody in this wild card race. And I don't think they're in the division race.
Yeah, I don't think many teams are going to pull away. I think the Giants, my prediction is it'll be the Giants, the Padres, and the Diamondbacks that will really go after these last two spots. But the Reds are the fourth team that I have on my radar here. And a lot of it is because of the shortstop, Ellie De La Cruz. And I always said this about J.T. Snow of the Giants. Every time you went out to the ballpark, he was going to do something that made you realize he was a great ball player. He was a great defensive player. He was like a shortstop playing first base. I get the feeling with Ellie De La Cruz, every time you go to the ballpark, he's going to do something to make you say, wow.
Yes, and if he doesn't, he's going to make you sit on the edge of your seat and stare every time he has a bat in his hands to see if this is the time it's going to happen. First game ever at Yankee Stadium. This is a kid who first game he ever went to as a kid was at Yankee Stadium. He was a Yankees fan as a kid, a Jeter fan. He gets up there and he hits a triple, left-handed, hits a triple left-handed into the right field corner, the short right field, and beats his buddy Juan Soto's throw to third. I mean, it wasn't even close. Then he comes up later in the game batting right-handed and hits a home run into the Yankees bullpen, 430 feet. This is the skill set this guy has. It's also the, I guess, personality he has, that thing that some guys have when they get on a bigger stage, they play as big as the stage. So if he makes the All-Star team like I expect him to, I can hardly wait to see what he does in Texas in a scene like that, an environment like that, because he's just, well, I think on your show I've said before, I mean, the word that comes to mind is just electric.
Well, you need a star, and he is a star for the Reds, but you also need pitching. And Hunter Green goes today. Lodolo, I think, comes back on Tuesday. Cruz is still looking good in the bullpen. Diaz is still a pretty good closer. Let's talk Cincinnati Reds pitching, because, Gordy, over this summer, this is when pitching matters, and you got to have your pitching together. Is the Reds pitching together?
It will be with Lodolo back. Lodolo is the key to them being potentially a great rotation, being potentially a rotation that could win in October if they get there. This guy was we don't think much of pitching wins, but his ERA was under 3 when he did come back and pitch. But he had decisions, I think, in every game or every game but one. That tells you something about a guy. And he had 8 wins. He was one off of when he got hurt this last time, and it's just a blister issue, so it's nothing serious. He missed the first couple of weeks of the season as an injury from last year lingered to get completely healthy, and then he had a calf thing or something for another 2 weeks. So he missed that time, and still when he went on the IL this last time was one off the lead in wins, because every time he pitched was win day basically. And that's how good he is. We know Hunter Green is good, 100-mile-an-hour guy, and he's taken a step forward in being able to just kind of pitch more than throw this year. So that's 2 guys right there. They brought in Frankie Montas. We know, out there in the Bay Area what Frankie Montas looks like when he's healthy. He's had some really nice games. And their bullpen, which was a strength last year, got bolstered in the offseason. It's still a strength. They can line them up and pitch with most teams, with pretty much every team when they're healthy, and it looks kind of like they are. The wild part in this is this 10-game homestand that just started that's going to take them to the break. If they played more games like they did in that opener against Detroit, and they win maybe half, it's against Detroit, Colorado, and Miami.
Wow.
If they come away 5-5 or 6-4, or God forbid worse when it comes to their prospects, the front office is going to have a tough decision. And a lot of these pitchers we're talking about, the guys they added anyway, they could trade these guys at the deadline and then retool in the offseason, be in this basically position they were going into last offseason without it really hurting their core. And that's a big decision that's coming up in just barely a week.
Boy, I like the Reds. I tell you, of all the other teams, I think the Reds are a team you have to watch for just what you said. The pitching is together. 40,663 there last night, so enthusiasm in Cincinnati. Gordy, one last thing. Part of the humor of baseball, we had the national anthem standoff between the Reds and the Yankees. How about that?
Yeah, Graham Ashcraft gets out there, and he just you should have heard him in the clubhouse after. He was so proud of himself. It was him and the rookie Carson Spires against two Yankees that were on the IL, standing off after the anthem, and only then Graham Ashcraft won. Aaron Boone pulled his guys up the field. Carson Spires said, "I didn't want to get a fine. I'm a rookie. I don't make that much money." So he peeled off, and then that was the talk of the postgame, Ashcraft's victory before the victory. I called it a 4-game sweep in New York.
I love it. Gordy, great to have you on. It really is good. It'll be Reds and Giants the beginning of August, so I'm sure we'll have you on for that series as well. Giants go into Cincinnati. I think the Reds are in it, and I think De La Cruz is a big part of it. So appreciate having you on. Enjoy the rest of the weekend, and we'll catch up with you.
Absolutely. Anytime, Marty. Thanks.
All right. That's Gordon Whitmire. Always like talking ball with Gordy. And, of course, he covers the Reds for the Cincinnati Enquirer. More coming up right after this on the Sports Leader. Fans, it's great to have you back with us as we get ready for Giants baseball. We're joined by Grant Power, the president and CEO of Nations. Grant, a quick question for you. What do you like for breakfast when you go to Nations?
My choice, I go with the two-egger, and I either go super crispy bacon or I go wild salmon. I substitute that in. I love both of those meat choices, so I'm pretty much 50-50 on both of those. And then I go over medium on my eggs, and I ask for chopped onions on top of those. And then, again, 50-50, I go either French toast substitute or I go hash browns and toast. And if I go hash browns and toast, I almost always pick English muffin as my bread. Definitely do coffee, definitely do orange juice, and I'm always filled up. I usually don't need anything until a late lunch, and there are lots of wonderful breakfasts, but that's my top choice.
Well, I love it. All right, Grant, you're making me hungry. Thanks for being on. We'll talk to you again.
Always a privilege. You take care, Marty.
That's Grant Power, President, CEO of Nations.
Giants fans, there's no better way to set the game day table than talking baseball with Marty Laurie. Marty keeps rolling on KNBR, the sports leader.
Yeah, we keep rolling along here. As we get ready for our last segment, don't forget about Georgie Brothers. Of course, they have that big sale going on right now for their stressless furniture, whether it's a recliner, ottoman. These chairs are the best. They're so unique. And, of course, Georgie Brothers has them. The big sale is going on until August. For $1,000, you save $100. Basically, you're saving 10%. And it's just really easy to work with them. Non-pressure. But the stressless chairs, I have them at home, and they're really comfortable, and they're good for your back. Trust me, they're good for your back. I can watch about 4 hours of Giants baseball in the chair without getting up, so it's pretty good. So that's what I want to tell you. Georgie Brothers, it's GIORGIBROS.com in South City since 1933. It's Rob Georgie, Tom Georgie, Steve, Mike Passer. There's just so many people to work with there. It's really a pleasure. So I'm really glad to talk about Georgie Brothers. All right, that's number one. Number two, the Giants have made some moves today. Harrison is activated. Bivens is gone. An option, VR is optioned out. And a new player, Colton Ingram. They brought up a lefty, Colton Ingram. They just got him. 27 years old, a 37th round pick of the Tigers back in 2019 or so, a little school in Georgia. And he's been with the Angels, the Tigers, the Mets, the Rangers, the Cards, and now the Giants, and the Tigers twice. And that's all within the last year. So all right. I guess in the farm system, they don't have anyone else. There's no lefties to bring up. And so Colton Ingram is a third lefty, which they need. You need a third lefty here in this bullpen. So Colton Ingram is now a San Francisco Giant, so we'll see how they use him. They need lefties against Cleveland at that top of the order, so we'll see what's going on there. Maybe Miller's not available today. Who knows? All right, so that's that. Now, Jerry Eisenberg wrote a beautiful book about Larry Doby, which I have here, and I'll hold it up for the folks on the stream. And we had an interview with Jerry. Yesterday was the anniversary of Larry Doby breaking the color line in the American League. Cleveland made a big deal about it, and they had T-shirts yesterday if you saw the game on TV. But Jerry wrote a beautiful book and knew Larry Doby really well. We played part of the interview on July 4th, and I wanted to play some more of it today. And then, of course, it'll be on loveofthegameproductions.com or the KNBR podcast website. Jerry Eisenberg, Izenberg, book is available on Amazon. The Book Tree up in Montclair, David's got it. But with that in mind, I want to pick up the interview and so you hear more about the great man Larry Doby was. Jackie gets all the accolades, but Larry Doby broke the color line in the American League, and it was July 5th of 1947. So I'm really glad to bring this to you every year so we never forget him. So picking up the interview, Jerry, great to have you back with us. There was a famous picture after the World Series in 1948 with Larry Doby being hugged by Steve Gromek, a pitcher. Let's talk about that.
That was a picture that Larry posthumously was awarded. Everything he got was posthumously, but just about, was awarded the Citizens Gold Medal from Congress. The front of the medal is always the same. The back, you choose what's on it. Well, Larry was gone by then. His son called Gromek's sons and said, I want you to give me permission. I want that picture on the back of the medal. And Larry's son is the head of the roadies for Billy Joel's crew. So they were going to play a game in Detroit, and the Gromek family lived in Hamtramck, Michigan. So he said, I got front row tickets for all the Gromeks you got, and you come out here and we'll sign a release. They said, no, we're not coming. We want you to come here. We want you to have dinner with us. He gets there, and he's in a house, one of the homes, and it's filled with Gromeks, aunts and uncles and cousins by the dozens. They all want to meet him, Larry Jr. He was there 5 minutes, and they felt like they knew each other for life.
Wow.
And that friendship has continued. And both Steve Gromek Jr. and Larry told me that picture was in their father's den, each one of them. And they never knew what it was. They'd walk past it every day. It's a nice picture. What did it mean? When they finally found out the meaning of it, the two families became as one. And you know, the interesting thing was, Larry would say to me, "That picture saved me." I had a copy of it in my suitcase. I'd look at it every time things got worse, and they got worse every year. He's the first black man to hit a home run in the World Series. And by the way, I made a little money off that because in bars, everybody says Jackie Robinson. I say, no, Larry Doby, and pay me. He wins the game. And they look like they're going to kiss. They're so close. Larry gets an inspiration out of it. Gromek gets heartburn. He goes back to Hamtramck, and there's a guy in Hamtramck he played Little League Baseball with, American Legion Baseball with, high school baseball with, close friends. The guy owned a bar, so as soon as he got back, he went to visit the guy. He walks in, the guy walks right past him. And he says to one of the regulars, what's wrong with him? He was told, the picture. Well, he turned around and said, what's the matter with the picture? And the guy said, well, you could have shook hands with the colored guy. You didn't have to almost kiss him, except he didn't say colored guy. He said the N-word. He walked out of that bar. That guy was his friend for like 25 years. Never spoke another word to him. But I'll tell you that surfaced in this way. That train I told you about that the Giants and the Indians took every spring training. They played 3 games. I think it was Columbus, Georgia. It was deep in Georgia somewhere. A place I don't particularly want to go. And what happened was he goes to play the outfield the first game he's playing there, and they're throwing beer cans at him. Not empty beer cans, full beer cans. He walks off the field, and the manager says, where are you going? He said, I'm going to go take a shower. I'm not going out there again. Now he's taking an early shower. He comes out of the clubhouse after the game, and a guy comes up to him, tall guy, 3-piece suit, Phi Beta Kappa key, and says, Mr. Doby, can I speak to you? He said, well, if you're not going to throw a beer bottle at me, yeah, sure. He said, I'm the only black doctor in this town. My wife and I think it's a sin. You have to be in a black boarding house with no air conditioning, with a keg of ice on the table, a little fan blowing on the ice. Come live with us, because you play these 3 games every year, and every year in spring training. Come live with us. They took him into the family. It was a wonderful relationship. About 10 years later, he reads about a guy who got shot at a lunch counter, shot to death, lunch counter sit-in. It was the doctor.
Wow.
So 4 days before he went into the Hall of Fame, I arranged, and he'd never been there. He said, I'm never going to get in, so why would I go? I arranged an after-hours tour. He and I, our wives sat in the lobby. We were the only people in there. It was like it was a ghost story. You could hear our footsteps as you walked through. Anyway, and he has a comment about every exhibit. So the following day, he said to me, I'm having a little trouble with my speech. I said, hey, it's your speech. Don't look at me. And besides, you speak from the heart. It'll be fine. He made a speech of 6 minutes and 16 seconds, the most moving speech I've ever heard in my life at that length of speech. He didn't tell the story about the doctor, which I urged him to tell. He told the story about the picture. And he said a lot of people are complaining about, there was no black managers at that point, were complaining about what's going on in baseball. Let me tell you something. Look at America and look at baseball, and I maintain that baseball is much further along to where we should be. Standing ovation, great speech. Wow. And I have a picture in the book of him making the speech, and the picture facing it is him sitting in the stands and wiping the tears out of his eyes.
Beautiful. Boy, I don't know what to say. It's beautiful, Jerry. You do such a good job, but we should have an audio book of the book. It's fabulous to listen to you tell the stories now.
I love the guy. I
come
really
on.
Let me
It's
tell you
all
one
in there.
quick, you got time for one quick story, I hope.
Go ahead.
Okay. He doesn't get in the Hall of Fame. He's voted against him. the player said he didn't have the numbers. I'm sick of hearing it. And I made the comment to a guy who said he didn't have the numbers. Take Babe Ruth and Ty Cobb and let me see how much they hit their first year when their lives are being threatened every night and their wives' lives are being threatened and their kids' lives are being threatened. And then delayed there. He finally gets to the Veterans Committee and he doesn't get in. And I'm writing a piece every year. He should be in. Nothing's happening. So Larry says to me, look, I want you to stop writing those pieces. They don't hurt me at all. It's nice that people remember me, but you're going to embarrass yourself. I'm never going to get in. I said, well, I'm going to take one more shot. And I wrote the meanest, nastiest piece I could write to the committee. Why am I not surprised? And I wrote it in the paper. You know, we were the 8th largest paper in America. Why am I not surprised that you guys won't vote him in? You're the veterans. You're the guys that didn't want to play one damn inning of baseball in the first place. I cut it out. I mailed it to every member of the committee. I got one response. It started out to be a disaster and wound up being something beautiful. It started, Dear asshole, Monty Irvin, Yogi Berra, and I have been trying to get him in ever since we got jurisdiction. So get off your fat ass, get off the couch, and get us the votes we need. Signed, Ted Williams.
Oh, boy. You're the best. Boy, you're the best. The book is terrific. Boy, as I say, put out by Sports Publishing. Jerry Eisenberg is the author. Larry Doby in Black and White, the story of a baseball pioneer. The book tree up in Montclair, David, I'm sure has it up there. This one's got to be in the window. I want one very quick question for you before we go, and I think it's worth it. Why didn't he get his due as a player? Well, what was it? He had a great background and everything. Go ahead.
Yeah, now the background is not as different as people think. Jack and Larry had 4 things in common. One is they both played with and against white players. That was very important in integrating a team. Number 2 was that they both went to college. Number 3 was they both served in the military, honorable discharges. And number 4 was people don't know, they think Larry was jealous or whatever, the other guy got all the praise. Not so. The first year they spoke on the phone. I'd like to have a nickel for every dollar in that phone bill. Every single day, just about, they spoke about how we're going to live through this thing. And after that, there were no similarities. Jackie was a firebrand. Larry was tough. He took a lot of crap. When he hit the home run that won the 1948 World Series for Romack, they gave him a parade when he went back to Patterson in a convertible with the high school band in front of him marching to the high school campus. And 3 days later, he tried to buy a house, and they wouldn't sell it to him.
Wow. You know, we do a lot of things on this show, Raf, and this is one of the best. I'm really proud to be able to do this and bring this story. Jerry Eisenberg is a gem. He's in his 90s. I could listen to him all day long, and his friend was Larry Doby, and he wrote the book, Larry Doby, in Black and White. But, boy, I'm just so happy that I could do this and bring this type of information to the audience, and we should never forget it. This is what July 4th was all about. This is what Brown versus the Board of Education was about, voting rights. It's all in baseball, and Jerry Eisenberg really does a good job of bringing that to us. So, boy, that was terrific. That's one of the best of the year for us. That was really good. And we do it every year. And we celebrate Larry Doby. And I like Jerry's comparison to him and Jackie Robinson. Well done, Raf. Raf, did you like it?
It's great, Marty. Yeah, no, it's I had to dump him, but, there's one part. But, it was really good. Great story. Boy,
yep.
I can't believe he's in his 90s.
Yep, I could listen to the guy all day long. But we could also listen to another guy all day long, and that is Kerry Crowley. Kerry, how are you? Good morning.
Oh, Marty, doing great. That was an excellent interview, and really looking forward to talking with you. Giants are playing better baseball these days. How about this?
Well, I told you. They can play. They're okay. They're not hitting great. They're not, but it's nice having Lamont Wade back. Ramos is still, hitting the ball pretty well. Conforto's had a big week. He really took care of Atlanta, and he got the big hit last night. But the pitching, I mean, I say this over and over again, you give them a lead in the 7th inning, they can bring it home. Even though Tranquilo Camilo, can't cover first base, which is killing them, they're playing good ball, and they're toe-to-toe with everybody. And I think it's only going to get better. I really do.
I do too. I think the big difference for this team in the second half of the season, Marty, is avoiding those big losing streaks that they had during the first half. There was the 6-game one from the end of May to early June where the Yankees were in town and really imposed their will against the Giants. Then, of course, getting swept in St. Louis a few weekends ago during a 5-game skid. That was bad. But this is a team that can win series. This is a team that, like you've said all season long, you give them a lead after 6 innings, and it can shut the door as well as any ball club in baseball right now. I believe in the hitters. I really believe in the left-handed lineup that Bob Melvin rolls out. So today's a bit of a challenge going against Logan Allen because you've got your right-handed lineup. It's Slater, it's Fitzgerald, it's Matos in there, a number of different right-handed hitters, Casale getting a start. But I like the makings of where this ball club is headed, and I still think, even with a 3-game deficit in the wild card, that's not too much to overcome. There's opportunities for this team to get a lot better with the pitchers coming back to the rotation. I think it's fair to be optimistic about the Giants, and I don't know that I was feeling as optimistic a month ago.
No, and you should be. I mean, the pitching is turning around, and they're getting big outs. Look, Cleveland was 0 for 11 with runners in scoring position. They did the same thing in Atlanta. They get in trouble. There's traffic, as I like to say, on the bases, but they make the big pitch to get out. And that's the big thing for me. They make that, and they turn double plays. I mean, Ahmed has really helped at short, and Wisely's done a nice job at second. And you're right. When they face a right-handed pitcher, that lefty lineup, they have won, I think, 7 straight, if I'm not mistaken, against right-handed starters, including some good ones. Now, left-handed starters, it's different, but let's see who they are. And the one today is Logan Allen. And this guy is somewhat of a pincushion. I mean, he's been hit hard by everybody, but he's still 8-4 because Cleveland has a great bullpen. And the big question for me is how many runs will they get before they get Logan Allen out?
Yeah.
And there were pitchers, and as I've grown up watching pitching my whole life, I'd say, boy, the team should win today, and then they end up losing because the pitcher that they should knock out only gives up 3. And then all of a sudden the bullpen's in and you get beat. So it's set up for them today, and you're right. The right-handed lineup has got to pick it up a little bit, but they don't have Estrada and they don't have Flores, and that is a challenge for them.
Yeah, and I think that'll be a challenge moving forward. I'll be interested to see if Farhan Zaidi decides to address this right-handed lineup at all at the trade deadline this year, Marty, because look, you've got Elliot Ramos playing at an elite level right now. I mean, if he's on this opening day roster, there's no question in my mind he's an all-star. The average is above 300. The OPS is above 900. He's been one of baseball's best RBI men since he's been called up, and he's hitting in the 3rd spot in the order, locked down center field. Just came out of nowhere relative to the expectations for what the Giants had for him this season. Matt Chapman's been great over the last 10, 15 days or so. I mean, this is the Matt Chapman that the Giants were hoping they could get when they signed him this offseason. And he had that interesting contract structure where it was kind of an acknowledgement from both sides that he hasn't played his best baseball in the last few seasons. And I think over the last 2 weeks, he's kind of turned back the clock to the Oakland A's days under Bob Melvin. This is the Matt Chapman, the version of him when he's at his best offensively and defensively that I think can really do damage and carry a ball club. And so it's on those 2 players, and today it's also on Jorge Soler at the top of the order. It's been a bit of a struggle for Jorge Soler the past few games. I did love the home run he hit off of Ronaldo Lopez in Atlanta earlier this week, Marty, where Lopez went inside on Soler and he had that quick turn on the hands. Just a really impressive piece of hitting. But outside of those guys, I think there's big questions. David Villar optioned today, so they're starting Tyler Fitzgerald at first base. You've got Ahmed and Wisely at the bottom of the order right now against a lefty and Logan Allen. So Would the Giants add another right-handed bat to this infield? Would they bring in someone, maybe subtract Wilmer Flores if he can't get it going coming off the injured list? Because I think they're only a few marginal pieces away from being a significantly better ball club, and I don't see them playing for the big fish at this year's deadline. I don't see them being in on Pete Alonso because Lamont Wade is their first baseman. I don't see them being in on Luis Robert because Elliot Ramos is their center fielder. But I do think maybe another lefty in this bullpen, another right-handed platoon bat. This Giants team could do some damage this year if this pitching comes back and is healthy and is good.
Well, there's no question. And I think they need another arm in the bullpen because they play tight games. And you're using the bullpen, to close out all these games. And these guys they're all going to be in 80 games when it's all said and done. And you can't do that. So, I think they need a right-handed strikeout guy. Maybe it's in the minor leagues, maybe it's not, but they need a right-handed strikeout guy for the bullpen. Look, they brought up Colton Ingram today. He was a 37th round pick or something from the Tigers years ago. He's been with 6 teams in the last year. So he's one of these guys, he gets DFA'd every minute. But he's a live lefty arm, so they need a lefty. They need, who knows where Miller and Rogers are today because they both pitched yesterday. So they need a live lefty arm, so they brought him up. But the right-handed hitting outfielder is what you brought up, and I think that's the question. Can Matos and Ramos be the right-handed guys with Slater and Conforto and Yastrzemski? Is that what you want to see in the outfield? And I think, as I said, I think you want to take the pressure off of Matos and Ramos and get a legitimate right-handed hitting outfielder. I would do it. Look, they're not bringing the farm system guys up anyway, so you might as well use them for something, and maybe you can trade some of them to get a right. Relievers are out there. Relievers are going to move around, but that right-handed hitter, you're going to have to focus in on somebody, and that's going to be a challenge for Farhan. Well, the guy, Tommy Pham, are you interested in him? Yeah, you're in that level. Are they any better? Are they an upgrade? And then you got the Luis Robert thing from the White Sox. That would be the ideal guy to be able to have him. But you're in more the Pham Pilar guys like you talk about. So let's see where they are at the end of the month. And let's see if Slater gets it going and what Matos is doing and everything else. But the pitching, you can never have enough runs. You can never have enough pitching. And they're going to have a lot of pitching in the next few weeks. So Cobb is on his way back, and Ray will be back, and Harrison is here today. Snell's going Tuesday, and he had the great game against, Reno or somebody last week.
5 innings, no hits, right?
Right. So it's turning around. And look, as I said to Bruce, Arizona and San Diego, wild game last night. Arizona takes 2 or 3 from the Dodgers. They've got 7. They had a 7-2 lead. Padres had a 7-2 lead on Arizona in the 9th inning. Arizona scored 6 to go up 8-7. Profar hits a home run to tie it up 8-8, and Manny walks it off to win 10-8. You got those 2 teams going nuts. You got the Dodgers. Will Smith hits 3 last night. Freeman gets a big hit, but Glasnow gives up 5. And where are they going? Now you got the Giants. I think it's setting up for maybe one of the best finishes we're going to see in years in the West.
I'd love that. I really would. And I think that, there's a lot of reasons I don't like the expanded playoff field. I think that it's too easy to say if you're a front office, we can go for 84, 85 wins, and that's good enough. And I'd prefer for these teams to be striving for 90, 92 like you had when it was just one wild card team. But this could be really fun in the National League West. You mentioned the Padres and what they've done, the Diamondbacks. If they get their pitching healthy, Marty, they're going to be a tough team. And I know that that's a big if. It more so of a question for the Diamondbacks than it is even for the Giants right now because they've got so many starters on the injured list and with bigger question marks in terms of their injuries. But the Giants are starting to make some noise. And then the other teams to monitor right now, the St. Louis Cardinals, they've got all the veterans. And, you get down the stretch and Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado have been there and done that before. Wilson Contreras is back in the mix for St. Louis right now. I think this could be a really fun race. I'm interested to see who buys and who sells at this deadline. I want to know what the Mets are doing, the Nationals, the Pirates, the Reds, because it's going to all become clear over the next 3 weeks, and there's an opportunity for a team like the Giants to make a few additions on the margins. And I think back through the years, I think back about, Javier Lopez and Ramon Ramirez. Those guys were not hailed as elite players when they came to the San Francisco Giants, but they helped Cody Ross. How about Cody Ross? I mean, you compare him to where Mark Canha is with the Detroit Tigers in his career. I think the Giants could go after Canha as your right-handed outfielder at the deadline. I just look at all the small additions through the years where, hey, he wasn't expected to do much. No one thought Marco Scutaro was a game changer when he was acquired by the Giants. And these guys come to a different organization. They're invigorated by being in a playoff race, and that's what makes this so fun. We're getting to the part of the baseball season that I really love, and I think you always break it down so well as the mosaic comes together. But this is where it truly gets fun for me, when these organizations are faced with difficult decisions about prioritizing the present, going for it, or thinking about the future. And I think the Giants should go for it in this present.
Yeah, I'm with you, because I think they can do some damage because they've got pitching. And in this playoff, pitching and defense wins. And that's the key. But they'd have to cut ties with some familiar names to do some of the things you want to do, and that's going to take some nerve on Farhan's part, and that's why I say the focus goes to the general manager this time of year. It's on the players, but now it's for the general manager to step up, so let's see what he does. But I'm with you 100%. I think you've analyzed it properly. I really do. So we'll see. That's
rare. You really think that I mess up this analysis a lot.
No,
so analyzing it properly, I appreciate that today, Marty.
Seriously, I like the outfield idea. I like the bullpen idea. But they'd have to cut ties with some popular people, at least within the clubhouse and all that, and you'd be sending a message, and they don't send messages. They don't do that. But Farhan did his job over the winter. He got the players he needed. And I'll say one thing about Arizona. Boy, not having Rodriguez, the pitcher, Eduardo Rodriguez, he's got the lat injury. It's the worst lat injury I've ever heard in my life. The guy has been out like 5 months. And Merrill Kelly is still out with a shoulder, which is never good. And Montgomery is out too. So Arizona's got it. They've got a long way to go, but San Diego doesn't. And I think San Diego's going to put some real pressure on the Dodgers.
Interesting.
And the Giants can be right behind them.
Pressure on the Dodgers. You think the Padres can close that gap a little bit?
Absolutely. Come on.
Okay.
The Dodgers came back last night to win, but it's 6.5 now. You got, 70 games to go, roughly 72 games to go? Absolutely.
Okay.
You look at trades. I'll give you one. Look at the Soto trade. Soto to the Padres. Look at the one to the Padres. Look what the Washington Nationals got. They got Mackenzie Gore going today against the Cardinals, and he's a big favorite, the lefty against the Cardinals. You get Abrams, the shortstop, and you get Wood, the big kid, the left-handed hitter. That's what you got for Soto. So the Giants have to be prepared to maybe give up some farm system guys, but to get something like that. And you get something like that, and all of a sudden you get very excited. Why do you want to squeak by when you could go out and really make a splash?
I'm with you 100%. If you spend all the money you did this offseason, if you make all the concerted efforts that you did to bring in Blake Snell and Matt Chapman, Jorge Soler, Jung-Hoo Lee, Jordan Hicks, the list goes on, you can't stop now. You can't fold the cards now. You can't do a half-hearted A.J. Pollock acquisition. You've got to commit. You've got to back up the guys in the clubhouse. You've got to give Logan Webb a chance to win, Marty. Logan Webb has done enough for this team that he deserves a shot from this front office, this ownership group, because, wow, has he been good this year. And once again on Thursday, winning the series in Atlanta. I mean, after that first inning, it could have spun out of control, and Logan Webb deserves the help around him.
Yeah, they don't hit that much. They need offense. They do. Yeah. It's 6 for 31, 8 for 31. I'm keeping track every day. They're gritty. They foul pitches off, and they're tough at bats, and they build that pitch count up, and they soften them up for the next guy, and they get sacrifice flies. They do that well. They're gritty, and they're a tough team. They score runs late. They're not afraid. They got some chances here. They really do. So let's see what they do with Cleveland. And they got a lot of the American League Central. This is the first game with the American League Central, so you get a lot of the White Sox, Tigers, Kansas City, Minnesota coming up. So that could help the Giants, too. So I think good things are ahead, but I think it's going to be exciting. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. It's exciting. They get Kyle Harrison back today. Blake Snell follows. So let's see how this pitching looks over the next few weeks. And remember, Marty, 7 out of 10 coming out of the All-Star break against the Colorado Rockies. That should help before the deadline.
Yeah, I'm looking right at it. Yeah, they go to Colorado and 4 with the Dodgers. Then
so 7 out of 11 then, yeah.
Yeah, then 3 with Colorado at home and 2 with the A's. And it's all there for them. Mm-hmm. Let's put it this way: they're not out of anything. They're one of the top teams. They're the next challenger in the wild card. You got San Diego, St. Louis, and the Giants are next.
Yeah.
So they put themselves in that position. So, all right, we'll see. What do you have on the show today? What's going on?
I want to talk about this bullpen and what it's done over the last month and why I think that it can kind of be the key in October if the Giants get there. But I'll say what the Giants need to do to get there with the bullpen. There's a few tweaks that I think that they could make, so I want to focus in on that. And then a few of the trade deadline targets we've hinted at. I just talked about Mark Canha. I want to talk about maybe another right-handed bat that they could add in the infield as well if they want to sharpen this mix. There are young players who are part of this organization that I think the Giants might be willing to part with if the right player becomes available. So you got to start thinking ahead, and that's what I want to do on today's warm-up.
I like it. All right, very good. How's the family?
Doing well, Marty. Listening in today. Looking forward to me. Hopefully, after I know they've tuned into you for 2 hours. So
all right. Enjoy it. Thanks, Kerry. And next week, I'm on 7 a.m. tomorrow morning, so we'll be ready. And then next week, next Saturday, 58 Social. We're back.
Oh, love it.
Yeah, that'll be, I think, noon next Saturday out there. All right, have a good afternoon, Kerr. And coming up, the Giants warm-up with the he's the best. Let me put it that way. Incomparable. Kerry Crowley, right here on the Sports Leader.
Seam heads, start cracking those peanuts and spitting those seeds, because gloves are soon to be popping.
He makes a headlong dive and makes the catch.
And bats are going to get cracking.
Blast one! Deep right field! Gone!
Welcome to KNBR's Giants Warm-Up.
Way back there. Goodbye!
On the Sports Leader.
All right, welcome into Giants warm-up. We are back on the air. Kerry Crowley getting you set for the Giants and the Guardians coming your way this afternoon from Cleveland. The first place Cleveland Guardians, 54-32 after last night's loss to the San Francisco Giants. They won it 4-2. We'll tell you all about that and the work that this bullpen has done momentarily. But today, Bob Melvin has put out his lineup for the San Francisco Giants. So do want to give you an opportunity to listen in on the lineup. It's the right-handed group up against the left-hander, Logan Allen, who, as Marty just mentioned, 8-4 on the season, a 5.75 ERA. Kyle Harrison returns from the injured list today. He will start for the Giants, 4-3, 3.96 ERA on the season. So Melvin will go with Jorge Soler, the designated hitter, followed by Austin Slater, still getting the call in that 2 slot in the order. He will play left field today in Cleveland, 200 average, 583 OPS on the season. But Bob Melvin has confidence in him in that number 2 slot. Elliot Ramos bats third. He's in center field. He's been so good since he was called up on May 8th. Matt Chapman, the cleanup man, third baseman, has been red hot over the last 2 weeks. Luis Matos will bat 5th and play right field. Tyler Fitzgerald will play over at first base today, getting another right-handed bat in the lineup. He'll hit 6th. Kurt Casale will bat 7th and do the catching as Patrick Bailey gets the day off. Nick Ahmed, the shortstop, will hit 8th, and Brett Wisely, the lone left-hander in this Giants lineup, will bat 9th and play second base. So I want to talk about this Giants bullpen and some of the roster moves, and we will do that on the other side. You're listening. Giants warm-up here on KNBR 104.5, 680, the Sports Leader.
KNBR Giants warm-up keeps rolling on the Sports Leader.
All right, we are back here on Giants warm-up as your San Francisco Giants get set to take on the Cleveland Guardians, going for another series win today. It's been a very impressive stretch of baseball over the last few weeks from the Giants as they attempt to climb back to 500 this afternoon against the first-place Guardians, the team that's 22 games over 500 in the AL Central. Kerry Crowley getting you set for first pitch this afternoon as Kyle Harrison returns from the 15-day IL for the San Francisco Giants. Big day for this ball club. A couple of roster moves to let you know about, including Spencer Bivens, who threw solid innings in relief last night in the Giants win, and David Villar. Those two players are headed back to AAA Sacramento. Giants needed a little bit of a quick roster shuffle, and so that is what they do. And, of course, with Kyle Harrison coming back from the IL, the Giants also wanted to add some depth to their bullpen. So they made an interesting move this week, and I think that this will kind of foreshadow a little bit of the future. Lefty Colton Ingram was called up from the farm system. Colton Ingram was just added to the organization this week as the Giants had an open spot on their 40-man roster, and so I think he was DFA'd potentially by the Angels or the Cardinals. I really don't know where this guy was, don't know much about him, but he comes up after making just one appearance at AA Richmond. Giants kind of kept him on the East Coast after acquiring him from the St. Louis Cardinals. It was the Cardinals, in fact, where he had spent much of the season at AAA with the Memphis Redbirds. So Colton Ingram comes up, Kyle Harrison is back, Spencer Bivens goes down, and David Villar also opted to AAA Sacramento as the San Francisco Giants get set to take on the Guardians. But I do want to highlight Spencer Bivens and the work that he did last night, and really the work the entire Giants bullpen did, as the hope for this organization is that the days of bullpen games where every fourth or fifth day, sometimes twice a week, sometimes three times a week throughout the month of June and the early part of July here, the Giants have relied so heavily on their bullpen as their starting rotation has been decimated by injuries. Blake Snell set to rejoin the rotation this week. Kyle Harrison, of course, back today. Robbie Ray potentially after the All-Star break, and Alex Cobb also working his way back, hoping to make his 2024 season debut at some point late in the month of July. But once again last night, after Logan Webb goes 7 innings of 2-run ball against the Atlanta Braves on Thursday, the Giants need to turn to their bullpen. It's Eric Miller who makes the start for San Francisco. He gives up 2 base runners in the first inning against the Guardians, but gets out of a jam. That was important because the Giants had taken that early 3-0 first inning lead against Cleveland. And then Bivens comes in, and after the outstanding start that he had on Sunday against the Dodgers, Bivens goes 3 innings of 1-run ball, lowers that ERA to 2.65 on the season. So 2.65 for Spencer Bivens, and that means that he's getting optioned today because he ate up some innings yesterday. The Giants need to maintain some flexibility in that bullpen, and they need the fresh arm, which is why Ingram is arriving in Cleveland today to help this ball club. You saw Taylor Rogers throw an inning last night. He lowered his ERA to 2.04 on the season. How outstanding has he been over the last few months? Randy Rodriguez was the one pitcher who got into a little bit of trouble last night, gave up 2 hits, of course, the run as well. But again, Rodriguez, ERA sitting at 4.54 during his rookie season. He's thrown some really valuable innings, and quite honestly, he's flashed impressive stuff that makes me believe that Rodriguez can be a part of this bullpen for the next several years, assuming that the Giants really see a role for him as a reliever. He was groomed as a starter in the minor leagues, and it wouldn't shock me if this offseason, if the Giants turned to making Rodriguez stretch out and, try to go the Jordan Hicks route with him, try to go the Ronaldo Lopez route with him, and see what Randy Rodriguez could potentially give the Giants down the road. And then you really need to hand it to the back 3 in this bullpen. Last night it was Ryan Walker who goes an inning and 2/3, lowers that ERA to 1.97, and I think in a lot of years, Ryan Walker will be getting all-star consideration. There's just a number of relievers with lower ERAs this year, relievers who will represent teams as probably the lone representative when all-star rosters are announced on Sunday. But Ryan Walker, you cannot say enough about the job that he's done for the San Francisco Giants. He was credited with his 5th win last night as the Giants won 4-2 against the Cleveland Guardians. 1 2/3 innings of scoreless ball, 2 strikeouts. Tyler Rogers, through the 8th inning, he got out of a jam, gave up 2 hits against Cleveland, and Camilo Doval gave up 2 base runners as well in the 9th inning, but picked up save number 17. And I really do believe that one of the reasons the Giants are back in this wild card race, they're the first team out of that third playoff spot, that third wild card spot, I should say, entering ball games on Saturday is because of the work that this bullpen has done over the last several weeks. I think, you asked me at the end of May, and I would have said that the bullpen was a significant work in progress for Bob Melvin and the San Francisco Giants. And really, there were three relievers that you could rely on. It was Walker, it was Tyler Rogers, and it was Camilo Doval, even though to date this season, Doval hasn't been as good as he's been in his previous years with the San Francisco Giants, locking down the closer role. The ERA still above 4, but I have to be honest, I have a lot of confidence in Camilo Doval, and you can tell from the first few pitches whether he's going to be on or off, and I do believe that he's really going to hit his stride during the second half of the season. And I do believe that it's better for the Giants to have Doval in that closer spot than not, because he's got experience in that role. He has had the opportunities through the years ever since September of 2021. And he's in the comfort zone. And so I think moving forward, if the Giants reach their peak as a team this year, and that's a big if, because you don't know what Blake Snell is going to look like coming off of the injured list. You don't know what Kyle Harrison is going to be able to give you today, as the Giants really want to monitor his innings. Robbie Ray is coming back from Tommy John surgery. Jordan Hicks has, surpassed his career innings threshold. He's never thrown as many innings as he has in this 2024 season right now. So there's some big picture questions about this starting rotation, but I think that this bullpen has shown me that if there's a reason to believe in the San Francisco Giants' ability to win in August and to win in September, it's because of Tyler and Taylor Rogers, Ryan Walker, Camilo Doval at the back of that bullpen. And oh, by the way, Sean Jelly and Eric Miller deserve some praise as well. This is a group that had one of the highest bullpen ERAs in all of Major League Baseball just a month or two ago. It was really a brutal stretch at the beginning of the season for the San Francisco Giants. There were a lot of games in which they got blown out, in which a reliever had to eat innings, in which a reliever gave up a lot of runs. And you've seen the Giants kind of whittle down the roster a little bit. Landon Root, Mason Black, both back in AAA Sacramento. Nick Avila, Kaiwei Tang, who ate up some innings for this team. Their ERAs combined above 8. You look at those players, they're off the roster right now. Mitch White ate up some innings for this Giants team. Dalton Jeffrey, Spencer Howard, and the Giants have kind of refined their bullpen to a point where the guys who are here, the guys who are representing the San Francisco Giants today on Saturday, July 6th, this is a group that you can win with. This is a group that I have an extraordinary amount of confidence in relative to other bullpens in the National League. And Marty has said this for a while on Talking Baseball this year. You look at the back end of this bullpen, you give the Giants the lead entering the 6th inning, and they're going to close it out. And yes, Ryan Walker and Tyler Rogers have been used extremely hard this season. Rogers leads the major leagues in appearances right now with 46. He is one of the all-time workhorses in Major League Baseball. Ryan Walker, second in the major leagues in appearances with 44. And then you start to go down that list. In the top 20, Eric Miller, who, by the way, in his rookie season has been outstanding for the San Francisco Giants. And you also have to credit Sean Jelly for the work that he's done out of the bullpen. 28 appearances for the Giants, a 3.38 ERA. But that ERA would look a lot lower right now if he didn't have that 7-run blow-up last weekend at Oracle Park in the second inning that he had to work against the Los Angeles Dodgers. The Giants were simply out of pitchers. Jelly was out of gas. It was kind of an unfair situation, and I really believe that he has put that outing behind him. He looked great earlier this week against the Atlanta Braves. I think they're in a great spot with where this bullpen is at right now. The one guy who you could say is in jeopardy of losing his job is Luke Jackson. 29 games this season. Jackson with an ERA of 6, only 27 innings on the season, fewer than a strikeout per inning. He's giving up more than a hit per inning right now. Luke Jackson just has not been reliable. He's in this second year of his contract. The Giants are paying him a lot of money, so they're going to give him every opportunity up until the trade deadline. But I'll tell you, if he has 2-3 more bad outings before July 30th, this trade deadline, I do believe that Farhan Zaidi will go out and seek alternative help for this bullpen. The Giants have a few pitchers that I think that they really like in this farm system. If you listen to the morning show on Friday, I talked with Susan Slusser, Dieter Kurtenbach, and I were on the San Francisco Chronicle, great senior baseball beat reporter, and she mentioned the possibility that Reggie Crawford could be in the mix, the 2022 first-round draft pick for the Giants. And if not for an injury, he would almost certainly be in the mix in August and September for a call-up. But I think that Crawford, if he's able to come back to AAA Sacramento sometime in the near future could put himself on the radar, and that would give the Giants another lefty to kind of pair at the back end of that bullpen with Taylor Rogers, who's looked increasingly reliable for this Giants team. And the other kind of wild card for this bullpen that I think is worth pointing out is Jordan Hicks. I mentioned that he's up against this innings threshold. He's thrown 90 2/3 innings on the season. Prior to this year, his previous high was something in the mid-70s, and that was way back in 2018. So you're talking about a pitcher who he's talking in post-game interviews about the fatigue that he's feeling in the fourth and the fifth inning. The third time through the lineup earlier this week against the Atlanta Braves, he did not look comfortable. That fastball did not have the same zip to it. The slider didn't have as much break to it, and I really do believe that the Giants can get a better version of Jordan Hicks in August and September if they're able to transition him out of this starting rotation and into a 6th, 7th, or potentially even 8th inning spot for the San Francisco Giants. So what would that look like for this ball club? You know, maybe you send one of these pitchers, Randy Rodriguez, back to AAA Sacramento. Maybe you DFA Luke Jackson at some point, or another team wants to take a chance in trading for Luke Jackson at the deadline, because there are so many clubs in the National League in the mix for a wild card spot, and almost every club at every trade deadline is looking for relief help. It's imperative on these front offices and on these managers and coaching staffs to ask for relief help and to go out and seek it. And I do believe that as good as the Giants have really been over the last month at the back end of that bullpen with Taylor Rogers, Tyler Rogers, Ryan Walker, Camilo Doval, the Giants should also be in the mix, looking for relief pitchers who could potentially help this squad in the month of August and September. And I say that because if this Giants team is going to do some damage, and by damage, I mean getting into the postseason with one of these wildcard berths and then going on a little bit of a run, winning their first postseason series since the 2014 World Series, ending this long drought that the San Francisco Giants as an organization have committed to ending with the spending that they did this offseason, with all the talk from ownership, from Greg Johnson and Farhan Zaidi in this front office. If they're going to make good on their promises and end this playoff drought that the Giants have been in since 2021, so only 2 seasons, but end this playoff win drought that they've been in since 2014, I think they need to seriously look at the back end of the bullpen and adding even more firepower, because you go back to 2010, 2012, and 2014, and what did Bruce Bochy have? A plethora of options in his bullpen that he could turn to at any time. And of course, he was a master at doing so. Bochy is the best maybe there ever was at managing a bullpen. So good. We saw it once again last year with the Texas Rangers in their run to the World Series, Bochy's 4th title. And that bullpen was not loaded with superstars, but it did have a number of quality arms, and he pulled all the right strings at all the right times. And it's because of some of the depth that he had as well that he could turn to. And so I think it's imperative that Farhan Zaidi looks at the market and finds a way to potentially bring in a veteran. I would love to see another left-hander join this mix with Eric Miller and Taylor Rogers. The guy who I like a lot is Tanner Scott of the Miami Marlins. I think that, 1.46 ERA this season in 36 games, 37 innings. So he's been used a significant amount, but hasn't been used in the same way that, say, an Eric Miller has right now. And I think that going down the stretch, Miller, Rodriguez, Jelly, some of these pitchers who've been relied on heavily this season, the Giants may want to dial it back just a bit for them. And they may want to, phantom IL a guy here or there just to keep these young pitchers fresh. You never know. You want to dial back Ryan Walker and Tyler Rogers and make sure that they're not up to 80, 81 appearances by the time that you're potentially playing postseason baseball, so that they can stay fresh and healthy and ready to go. I just think that it would be in the Giants' best interest, if they do decide to buy at the trade deadline, to look at the market, analyze what can help them, and take a good, long, hard look at this bullpen and realize that, yes, it's the strength of the team, but you can never have too many great relievers, especially in the month of October, and especially for a pitching staff that, let's be honest, outside of Logan Webb, even if Blake Snell's at his best, even if Robbie Ray comes back from Tommy John surgery and proves that he can really help this team down the stretch, who's going to give them more than 6 innings in a postseason game? Logan Webb will, but that'll be in game 1 of a wild card series or potential NLDS. Outside of that, the Giants need to take a good, long, hard look at how much they would be relying on their bullpen in each and every playoff game and stack it to the max. I'm talking about getting as many arms as possible. So if Jordan Hicks is part of it, great. If Hayden Birdsong ultimately transitions into a relief role, I think he can be successful for the San Francisco Giants. But If they get to October, I don't think you can count on Blake Snell giving you more than 5 or 6. I don't think you can count on Robbie Ray or Alex Cobb or even Kyle Harrison giving you more than about 5. They need to take a good long look at the state of this bullpen, see how it has been taxed this season, and see how they can add to it over the course of the next month. Because if the Giants are going to do some damage this year, if they're going to make good on these promises, this relief corps that's been so good over the last month needs a little bit more help. They need to ease the load. They need to ease the burden on Walker, Rogers, and Doval. And I think they'll be able to do that if they decide to buy at this year's trade deadline. Today, it's get back to 500 and then get back in that mix. I'm Kerry Crowley. This is Giants Warm Up. More coming up next year. Listening to KNBR 104.5 680, the sports leader.
2 on, 1 out. Doval pitches. Naylor, ground ball to second. Wisely has it to second one. Ahmed to first. Got him, double play! And the Giants have won the game here in Cleveland. And they did it all night long in stressful spots on defense and on the mound. And they found a way to keep the Guardians at bay. Wow.
Welcome back to our KNBR Giants warm-up on the Sports Leader.
A great final call by Dave Fleming last night. The 4-6-3 double play as Camilo Doval gets out of it, picks up his 17th save of the season as the Giants pull up to 44-45, an opportunity to get back to 500 in today's ball game as Kyle Harrison comes off of the 15-day injured list. The rookie left-hander, he's been good this season, hasn't quite reached the heights that, he may during his major league career, but I still think that Harrison is a work in progress. I still think there's plenty of work for him to do in terms of refining his pitch mix, refining his arsenal. But I will say his competitive demeanor is excellent. He clearly takes after Logan Webb in his desire to get through 6, get through 7 innings. I think that the Giants have a nice young left-handed starter who can be a foundational piece for their rotation for years to come. So looking forward to seeing how he handles this first-place Guardians team with a tough lineup, a lineup that can be difficult on lefties. Stephen Kwan at the top. He's so difficult for any pitcher, righties, lefties, the Bay Area's own. His average was up near 400 just a few weeks ago. At this juncture of the season, still hovering well above 350 right now. So Stephen Kwan, Jose Ramirez at the top of the order. Stephen Vogt, the manager for the Cleveland Guardians, has done quite well in his first season with Cleveland, and I would anticipate that this Guardians team will be in the mix all year long. And an AL Central that, quite frankly, has been a surprise this year. The AL Central features some really strong teams, and the Guardians, the Royals have been good this year. They've got Seth Lugo and Bobby Witt Jr., two of the more underrated players in all of baseball right now. The Twins have been in the mix as well. The Tigers were interesting for a little bit. They've fallen off in the last month or so. And then you've got the White Sox at the bottom of the division, almost like the National League West, where everyone beats up on the White Sox, everyone beats up on the Colorado Rockies. That's just the standard in these two divisions. So with that, it's worth noting that today's Key Player of the Week is sponsored by the Key Point Credit Union. The Key Player of the Week for the San Francisco Giants, none other than Matt Chapman. The outstanding third baseman has had an excellent 7-game stretch. He's 9 for his last 27 at the plate. That's a .333 average, a .406 on-base percentage with a .778 slug. Good for a 1.184 OPS. 3 doubles, 3 home runs, 9 runs driven in over the last week. And oh, by the way, you're talking about a player who's won a platinum glove in his career. This is a gold glover, someone who plays excellent defense at third base, has completely stabilized the position for the Giants this season. And I go back to Thursday's game on the 4th of July when Logan Webb was on the hill. Things could have gotten out of control for him early in that ball game, and the Giants had really one of the relays of the year across Major League Baseball. Double into the left field corner. You had Michael Conforto down at Truist Park digging it out. He fires in toward the infield. What I thought was so interesting is when you have a left field to home plate relay, it's almost always the shortstop who goes out to shallow left field and fires the ball home to the catcher. Instead, the Giants have changed that this year because Matt Chapman has such a tremendous arm. And Nick Ahmed, while a great defender, a solid arm as well, it's just better if they send Chapman out there and have Ahmed behind him as the backup. They send Chapman into shallow left field. He fires the one-hopper home to Patrick Bailey, who swipes the tag on Matt Olson. Just a sensational 7-5-2 putout that kept the Giants in that ball game, enabled the Giants to ultimately win that ball game and take their first series in 6 years at Truist Park. A big accomplishment for a Giants team, beating a team in the Atlanta Braves who are ahead of them in this National League wildcard race right now. So with that, it's important that we give you our standings update, sponsored by the Alameda County Probation Department. Visit joinacpd.org today for a career that matters. And when you take a look at the National League right now, it's the Dodgers who lead the West at 54-35, 6-4 over their last 10 ball games, a run differential of plus 109 this season. The Padres behind them, as Marty noted, 6.5 games in the National League West. That's the difference between the Dodgers and the Padres. The Padres have one of those wild card spots secured right now. The Giants have inched ahead of the Diamondbacks ever so slightly for third place in the division. They trail the Dodgers by 10 games. They're sitting outside of that third wild card spot by 3 games. You've got the Diamondbacks at 43 and 45, and then the Colorado Rockies at 31 and 57. And we mentioned this earlier when we were talking with Marty in our crossover from Talking Baseball to the Giants warm-up. Coming out of the All-Star break, the Giants will play 7 of their 11 games against the Colorado Rockies, including 4 at home over a 3-day stretch when they've got a scheduled doubleheader at Oracle Park. How about that? Kind of a throwback to the old days, a scheduled doubleheader at Oracle Park. I love it, and for the Giants' sake, they probably love that they're facing off against a Colorado Rockies team that has been dismal on the road this season, 12 and 31 away from Coors Field. You look at the rest of the National League. In the East, the Phillies still leading that division by a comfortable 10-game margin. They're 58 and 30 on the season. The Atlanta Braves, 47 and 39. They, of course, are leading the National League wildcard race right now. The New York Mets still in the wildcard race, 42 and 44, but I would not be shocked to see David Stearns and the Mets selling at this year's trade deadline. Maybe Pete Alonso. He could be the biggest name moved this year if the Mets decide to move off of him, can't come to an agreement on an extension, and I don't see that happening in the middle of this month of July. The Washington Nationals, who a few weeks ago were right in that mix, sitting around that third wildcard spot, they've fallen back just a little bit, 3 and 7 in their last 10 games, 41 and 47 on the season right now. The Miami Marlins rounding out that NL East at 30 and 58 right now. They're one of the 2 teams, the Colorado Rockies as well, who are not in the playoff mix whatsoever. As you look at the Central, the Milwaukee Brewers, what a story they've been this season. They added right-hander Aaron Civale this week in a trade with the Tampa Bay Rays, striking early at the deadline, even though Civale, not a marquee name right now, struggling a bit this year, but the Brewers needed some rotation help, and they wasted no time. Matt Arnold, the president of baseball operations there in Milwaukee, working quickly to get that deal done. The St. Louis Cardinals in second place. They've been on a tear over the last 2 months, 46 and 41 right now. They're in control of one of those 3 wildcard spots in the National League. The Pirates sitting in third place in that division, a half game ahead of the Cincinnati Reds, and then the Chicago Cubs bringing up the cellar in the NL Central, 41 and 48. You absolutely could see the Cubs trading players away at this year's deadline. We'll run through the American League very quickly. The Baltimore Orioles leading the Yankees by 3 games in the AL East right now. The AL Central, we already mentioned that the Guardians face off against the Giants today in first place. They lead the Minnesota Twins by 6 games. The Royals, 8 games out in the AL Central. And in the AL West, the Seattle Mariners, 49 and 41, a 2-game edge over the Houston Astros, who played much better ball over the last month or so. They're 8 and 2 in their last 10, 46 and 42 on the season right now. So when we come back, we'll keep you updated on today's starters for the San Francisco Giants and the Cleveland Guardians, give you another peek at the lineups, and discuss a few trade possibilities that I think the Giants ought to be looking into as we inch closer to today's start. It's a 1:10 Pacific start in San Francisco, 4:10 local time in Cleveland today as the Giants look to win their 4th consecutive series against the Guardians. They took one 3 of 4 from the Chicago Cubs last week at Oracle Park, 2 of 3, nearly swept the Dodgers at Oracle Park, and then they go into Atlanta, win 2 of 3, an opportunity to secure a winning road trip today in Cleveland as Kyle Harrison takes the mound. So more coming up on the other side. You're listening to Kerry Crowley, Giants Warm-Up here on KNBR 104.5, 680, the Sports Leader.
We're getting you in the mood for a crazy crab sandwich, some garlic fries, a cha-cha bowl, and some orange and black baseball. KNBR's Giants warm-up keeps rolling on the sports leader.
All right, Kerry Crowley back here with you on your Giants warm-up. Giants and the Guardians coming your way 1:10 p.m. in San Francisco, 4:10 p.m. local time in Cleveland. Kyle Harrison reinstated from the 15-day injured list today as he will make the start for San Francisco. 4-3 on the year, 3.96 ERA. Logan Allen gets the call for the Cleveland Guardians. Has a solid year record-wise, 8-4, but a 5.75 ERA suggests there's some opportunity for the Giants to do some damage early in this ball game against Allen before you get into that vaunted Guardians bullpen that's been so good for first-year manager Stephen Vogt. So if you missed the lineup earlier, here's the squad that Bob Melvin has going for the Giants this afternoon. You've got Jorge Soler leading off. He's the designated hitter. Austin Slater will play left field and bat second. Elliot Ramos in the 3 spot today. He's the center fielder for the Giants. Matt Chapman, the cleanup man. He'll play third base. Luis Matos out in right field this afternoon. He hits 5th. Tyler Fitzgerald bats 6th and plays first base, with David Villar being optioned earlier this morning. Kurt Casale will do the catching, so Patrick Bailey gets the day off. Nick Ahmed at shortstop, and the lone left-hander in the lineup today for the Giants is Brett Wisely. He will play second base. Tyro Estrada, of course, still on the injured list for this Giants team. For the Guardians today, it's Stephen Kwan in left field. Martinez will bat second and play second base. Jose Ramirez plays third base. He's excellent. 23 home runs this season, 76 runs driven in already. And how about 16 stolen bases for Jose Ramirez? Really just a 5-tool talent over there in Cleveland. Josh Naylor plays first base. He's the cleanup man for Cleveland. David Fry, the designated hitter. Noel will play right field. Freeman in center field batting 7th. Bo Naylor, the catcher, batting 8th. And Rocchio, the shortstop, batting 9th for this Guardians team. Let's take a quick spin around Major League Baseball and look at some of the scores this afternoon for some of the games that are already in progress today. Bottom of the 5th inning in the Bronx, where the Yankees hold a 6-4 lead over the Red Sox right now in an American League East rivalry matchup. Bottom of the 3rd inning at Target Field in Minnesota, where the Twins have a 5-1 advantage over the Houston Astros right now. Hunter Brown, the rookie pitcher, on the mound for Houston in that one. Top of the 3rd inning in Chicago, Wrigley Field, where the Angels are leading the Chicago Cubs 4-0 right now. The Cubs just 1 hit in that ball game right now. Those are the 3 games underway already today. Plenty of other action coming up this afternoon. The Mets in Pittsburgh up against the Pirates right now. 2 teams trying to hang on to a spot in this wild card race right now. The St. Louis Cardinals play the Washington Nationals in our nation's capital this afternoon. The Tampa Bay Rays take on Bruce Bochy's Texas Rangers in Arlington this afternoon, where, of course, we'll host the All-Star game this summer. So about a week and a half from today, the Rangers and and the good folks at the ballpark in Arlington, if it still goes by that. I don't know if Globe Life Field still has that moniker since they've opened that new stadium. Regardless, that's where whoever represents the Giants, which of course I think will be Logan Webb and potentially Elliot Ramos, will be headed a week and a half from now. The Oakland A's out at the Coliseum this evening against the Baltimore Orioles. The Cincinnati Reds and the Detroit Tigers this afternoon at Great American Ballpark. The Seattle Mariners and the Toronto Blue Jays will battle up at T-Mobile Park up in Seattle. Tough matchup for the Miami Marlins today, as it's the Chicago White Sox and the Marlins down in Miami. Combined 56 wins between those two teams. Not a great one. Of course, in Atlanta this evening, it's the Phillies against the Braves at Truist Park. The Dodgers play host to the Milwaukee Brewers tonight. You've got the Colorado Rockies and the Kansas City Royals this evening as well. And our final game, coming off of last night's Manny Machado walk-off home run for the San Diego Padres in a wild one. It's Brandon Pfaadt going for the Diamondbacks against Matt Waldron, the knuckleballer, going for the San Diego Padres. By the way, Matt Waldron's been quite a story this season with that knuckleball that he's thrown. Of course, went to Fenway Park last week with the Padres and threw it. And Tim Wakefield was his mentor. Tim Wakefield, one of the all-time greats. So sad to see him pass away last offseason. But, of course, one of the all-time great knuckleballs in Major League Baseball. A tremendous competitor with the Boston Red Sox. And it was kind of fitting that Matt Waldron got to pitch there at Fenway Park this year. An honor. Tim Wakefield, his mentor. So a nice story there that Waldron's having such a strong season so far for the San Diego Padres. So As we get set for Giants baseball this afternoon, I think it's worth discussing the trade deadline 24 days from today. July 30th is the trade deadline this year. It's moved up a day from July 31st when it typically happens. And I think there's some opportunities for the Giants to be a soft buyer this year. And what I mean by that is I don't think they're going to be all in on a big fish like a Pete Alonso or, a horse at the front of their rotation. I think that they want Blake Snell to come back from the injured list and be the ace that they paid him to be alongside Logan Webb. I think that they're hopeful that Robbie Ray can be someone who stabilizes this rotation as well. They want to ease back on Kyle Harrison, who gets the start today. They definitely want to ease back on Jordan Hicks, who, of course, has already surpassed his innings threshold. But you still got Hayden Birdsong throwing well for this Giants team. Alex Cobb could make some starts down the stretch for this ball club. Maybe they bring in a fifth starter at the deadline. But I think more realistically, you look at the bullpen, and the Giants could use either a right-hander or a left-hander. And there's some opportunities on the market right now to capitalize. If you're San Francisco, if you're Farhan Zaidi, you look at the best pitchers available this year. And I think that Tanner Scott of the Miami Marlins, he'll be the left-hander who's most sought after. He's got a sub 1.5 ERA. He should be representing the Marlins in the All-Star game this year. He might be difficult to acquire, though. So Carlos Estevez, who's been closing games for the Angels, he could be someone, a right-hander, who fills onto the radar of the Giants. And I think the Angels and the Giants are actually good trade partners this year because there's a number of other players on that Angels team that I think fit San Francisco. If the Giants are looking for other relief help, Kyle Finnegan of the Nationals, he's a name who comes to mind. Adam Ottavino of the Mets. He struggled a bit this year, but he's someone who I think could be interesting. And then a few pitchers on the injured list right now. Emilio Pagan of the Reds and Yimi Garcia of the Toronto Blue Jays. Just some journeyman veteran relievers who I think could add to an already strong bullpen for the Giants that, of course, I addressed earlier in this show. A few other pitchers, John Brebbia having a season with the Chicago White Sox. Giants might look into a reunion there as it would cost almost nothing to acquire John Brebbia. And then Matt Moore down with the Angels. He's someone who I think the Giants could look into a reunion with if they're looking at another left-hander. And just one name to keep in mind. He went on the injured list with a wrist issue for the Angels earlier this week, but Luis Rengifo, he's a great infielder. He plays all around the diamond for that Angels squad. He bats switch hit, and so I think that that's the type of versatility that the Giants could look for if they are hoping to upgrade their infield depth. You could potentially trade away, one of your prospects who's fringier, who's on the 40-man roster, who maybe doesn't fit the bill as a long-term contributor for the organization, as the Angels are probably in rebuild mode. Who knows what will happen for that ball club this summer. So been a pleasure to hang out with you this afternoon. More coming up on the other side as we get you to this day in Giants history. Diamond our full Giants pregame coming your way in just a moment. I'm Kerry Crowley. This is Giants Warm Up. You're listening to KNBR 104.5 680, the sports leader.